Yeah, so I think crediting things is great, but without being arrogant about it, you have to embody it.
Right.
And you have to have results to back it up, and that helps you embody it more. So a lot of people that keep just crediting, I think they just lack the results of what they know. Like, it's not just knowledge is power. It's like we always say, applied knowledge. And sometimes even applied knowledge without results, or maybe just not results yet, would probably not help people have the confidence to embody something. And
MyCORE is on a mission to be the world's most people-centric company. The purpose of this podcast is to get to the core of people. I'm your host, Nathan Bourne, and I invite you to join me as we deep dive into the personal and professional lives of our guests. We're going to learn who they are, why they exist, and what they do. We're going to hear their stories, the good, the bad, and the ugly. In other words, we're going to talk to some really cool people. Welcome to the MyCORE Podcast. I'm pumped for today's episode here with Tarik the Mazani. Tarik El Mazani.
I'm pumped too, bro. Can't
Man,
wait.
this is going to be incredible. Tarik and I go back. We go back. I met Tarik when he was 19 years old in 2012.
Think so, yeah.
2012.
And 2012, yeah.
And man, what a journey your life has been. My life has been. We know a lot about each other. Some we'll share during this episode.
Some we can't.
Some we will not share during this episode. But I want to just rattle off a few things that I think we're going to talk about, that I hope that we talk about, just as I've prepared my thoughts, my mind on some of the topics, some of the stories. I know we're going to laugh our asses off.
We're going to also try not too much.
Last night, Tarik came up from Orlando and spent some time with Jen and I, and we just reminisced. We laughed. We caught up, and I think I was on the ground a lot,
like literally, like rolling,
because Tarik is the funniest dude I've ever met. So we're going to talk about you moving to America at 13 years old. We're going to talk about your parents being divorced at 2 years old. You were when they split?
That's what they told me. That's what they said. I'm going with what they say.
Right. Living with your grandfather, living with your grandparents in Morocco, then moving to the U.S., not being able to speak English.
Yeah,
Ben, like we're good now.
There's no barriers.
And I want to talk about Islam relative to Christianity. I want to talk about marriage, divorce, money, success, mental health, like all the things. So I'm pumped. You know, Tarik, to just give you guys some context here. I have never met anyone like you. And I've met a good amount of people. You know, I feel like I'm pretty well.
I don't know if it's a good thing.
Yeah, no, it's a good
I've never met somebody like you. Let's please elaborate.
Yeah, you are a unique dude. How many languages do you speak?
4.
But then there's like a few other that you like kind of speak. I've seen you do it. Yeah.
Kind of try to.
Right. So 4 languages. So that's English.
Yeah, so I would start
Moroccan,
with
Arabic,
French, English, and Spanish.
But is Moroccan like different?
That's a dialect of Arabic, yeah.
Okay. So it's like broadly Arabic, but there's a very
technically Moroccan is like very, very different than the actual Arabic because we've been influenced with a lot of languages from countries that colonized us. So we understand all the Arab countries when they speak Arabic, but none of them actually understand us when we speak our Arabic.
That's interesting, right? So you almost have like a secret language.
Yeah, and even within Morocco, there's a lot of dialects within Morocco, within the actual dialect.
So you were born in Morocco?
Yeah, born and raised.
Casablanca?
Yeah, movie Casablanca. It's my hometown.
Very cool.
Fun fact, movie Casablanca was not filmed in Morocco at all.
Like Arizona?
It was more like Hollywood.
Right.
But now there's a cafe in Casablanca called Rick's Cafe. That was in the movie.
That's cool.
So,
But it wasn't actually filmed there.
no.
I've not seen it. I hope that doesn't
Me
offend you.
neither.
You haven't seen it.
I've seen the poster.
Right. So, okay. So you're born in Morocco. You're 31 today. So it's 1993. You were born in Morocco. And you lived there for how many years? I mean, at least the first 10, 12 years of your life?
I moved here in 13. So
Had you ever been to the United States before you moved here? Like, did you visit?
Yeah, twice on
Okay.
vacation, the 2 years before that. So I moved here officially January 22nd, 07.
Okay, cool.
But I came in 05 and 06.
And was it like, I don't want to just assume that everyone wants to live in America, but was it like in your childhood? Was it like
Actually, I have
talked
no clue
about, or
that
was it like a random thing? Like, how did that happen? How did you end up moving here?
My dad moved here in 1999. So as you mentioned earlier, my parents were divorced when I was pretty young. So I grew up with my grandpa, but then decided when they decided to have me move here, because I had no clue. When I actually came here in 07, I thought it was just one of those times that I'm just gonna come and go back.
Okay, well,
So,
help me understand that, because you're still, I know, very close with your mother. You visit her. She's in Switzerland now.
yeah, she visits. She came here. I go back.
So why did you live? Like, did your mom and grandparents all live together, or you lived with your grandparents apart from your mom and dad?
Yeah,
Like,
so
explain
they're-
that to
so
us a little bit.
my grandparents from my dad's side.
Oh, okay.
So they're my dad's.
This is your
parents.
dad's father
Yeah.
and mother,
Yeah.
and you lived with them. Like, why? Why didn't you live with your mom or
It
your
was a
dad?
decision that my actual grandpa made up, and just so we can have more of a stable home, especially since my dad moved here and my mom was. So instead of just not having stability, base
Like
and,
financial stability, because your mom.
all kind of stability.
Okay.
So all kind of stability, education wise, upbringing, all that. And I was very lucky that when I moved in with my grandpa, as when he was retired, and I was basically his project.
Okay, so he was at a stage in his life where he was stable, established. Now, was your mother young when she had you? Was it just sort of socioeconomics, like the way she
was,
grew up? Like,
it was
because that's a
probably-
big decision to. Obviously, you saw her like, how often did you see your mom in Morocco?
Oh yeah, very often. Yeah,
Okay.
throughout the whole week and all that. Yeah.
Okay.
But just my grandpa just made it very clear that it's better for me, and even my mom understood that. My dad understood that, and it was just it's more like a 12 years of a boot camp, basically. Very strict, just
So strict.
school, soccer,
Discipline.
sport. So at that time, I didn't enjoy it as much as a kid, basically. So when I would go every weekend to my other grandparents' house, which is where my mom would be, and my other cousins that I call brothers and sisters because I grew up with them, basically. So whenever I go there, it's more like very chaotic
Okay.
compared to what my grandpa lifestyle was. So I used obviously as a kid, you want that. You don't want any discipline, any of that. But that's what
That's
got
interesting. So you had the structure, almost like militant structure,
Yeah.
from your grandfather
Mhm.
being in his home. What drove that? Was he like in the military? Did he just
No, he's
was
always
he
had
successful and required that you be
He's
too?
always had leadership positions in his whole career, which he was doing an audit. His job was basically for it's like OUC over here or
Okay.
Duke Energy,
Okay.
but for the whole Morocco, it's called ONE, which is in French, Office National d'Electricité, which is the
Yeah, so
national.
I figured it was that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I got you. That's
I
what
knew that part.
I know. I was trying to remind you of what you
Yeah,
already
thank
knew.
you.
I was like, you know what? Let me just emphasize on the fact that you already knew it.
We, yeah.
No. So he had that his whole life, and a lot of very highly educated. So I was very lucky and very blessed to actually have that.
Now you're
Influence,
like
basically.
hilarious. You're silly. You're kind of a rule breaker too, like in your own way. I mean, I think you and I are kindred spirits because we're sort of like this relaxed intensity, or like rebels, but with a cause. So we don't have like we have our vices, but we don't have it in the way of like alcohol and drugs and those types of things. So where is it? Maybe like a blend of some of the chaos from your
Oh
mom's
yeah,
side is where
yeah,
you got like your
yeah. It's
swag, or like
of
where did
course,
you
yeah.
like
So
become
the
like as cool as you are?
well, thank you.
Not
But
everyone can dress like that. Look at them
yeah,
shoes,
look at
bro.
your shoes, bro.
I've
Very nice.
specifically
I like
got
this like
these for
slash
you.
pink green. Pretty cool. Pretty sure it has some meaning
Right.
to it. But no, you're right. So that's pretty much it. So the structure
Real
that I
quick, let me
go
give
ahead.
everyone a disclaimer, because I promised Tarik that I wouldn't let everyone know that you made just shy of $1 million last year. So I'm not going to tell everyone that at 31 years old you're like knocking down 7 figures as an individual. So as long as nobody, and here's the thing, money's not everything, but it's easy to count, right? So it is an output, and I know a lot of people that listen are in business, are in sales, are in leadership, and kind of the art and science of influence is something that they want to, enhance and increase their skills around. So I just wanted to like let it be known and kind of set the tone that you're not just like a cool guy that is fun to listen to and interesting. You're wildly successful, and I'm excited to talk about how we met and where you were at 19 years old, the successes that you had up to that point, none of which were financial, but you had other things to pull from. So anyway, I just as you started to share that story, I feel like early on in this conversation, people need to know that like this isn't rhetoric or regurgitating. Like you have a lifestyle that affords you things that most people will only dream of. So kudos to you, and I think that's awesome. I know that you don't put like all of your identity and meaning in that, but it also is nice to have a nice home and drive a G-Wagon and like travel the world and do the
Well,
things you
I
do. Yeah.
appreciate the way you just threw me
But I
off
didn't.
and
Yeah, I
then
didn't
made
want to
it,
tell anyone
and
no
we
like
made it.
numbers. I
Yeah.
just want to throw generally out there that like you made like $806,000 last year. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, like yeah. But your social security number is 216.
So going back to that is because the structure that I had from my
Yeah, I want to know how you
grandpa.
did that. Right.
So what I'm saying is that between the chaos and the structure came this blend that a lot of it had nothing to do with me, but I capitalized on it. So I had a lot of advantages that have been instilled in me, but I had two choices: either to capitalize on it or not. And
Right.
we have not got to the stage that when I moved here and how much my dad had to do with that success as well. So we were
So
still.
you credit there too.
Oh yeah,
right?
hugely, of
Because
course.
he's really
But
successful in
of course, and that
business.
was another reason. It was basically you can't just be average when your dad is just one of the elite. So you didn't just come
I
into.
learned something the last time we hung out a few years ago.
And you know my dad personally too. So.
Yeah, and he's a pretty stoic dude. Like
Oh,
he's
very.
kind of serious and no
Oh yeah,
nonsense.
he's like way stoic than I would ever be.
Like because you're hilarious. I feel like your dad's not very funny. Or I
Oh,
miss
he
some.
is.
Is he funny?
He's one of
Okay.
my best friends. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. And is your grandfather funny? Or like no?
Oh yeah, he
Okay,
is
he's
with
funny
me.
too?
So
With you. Okay.
so I have a weird relationship. So my relationship with my grandpa and my relationship with my dad, I'm the one that's like the basically the piece that can connect the two of them.
So
So I get along with my grandpa and my dad better than they get along with each other.
So do you find yourself like mediating and kind of like conflict
Indirectly, sometimes,
resolution? Yeah,
it's
or
good.
like-
Yeah,
that's probably healthy. Yeah,
of course. Yeah, very.
But so good to have your grandson and
Yeah, not in a
son.
bad way though. I never had
No,
to
but
be
you have
there.
like a
Yeah,
cool,
it's good. Like I
cool
would communicate
trinity.
in ways with my grandpa that my dad would not be able to, and I also would communicate with my dad in a way that, and that's something that a lot of it was natural, the way my upbringing and just
Now
my
here's a
natural
question:
personality. I would
would
assume.
you say that your two-part question, is your father hard on you? Is your grandfather hard on you? And then who's harder on you? Because I feel like your dad's kind of hard on you, but
My dad is just hard.
it's just a hard body, dude.
Just hard.
Yeah.
Just put that out
Because
there.
I thought it was like kind of hard
Yeah.
on me. And
Like you,
in the
he's
driveway.
so hard. Like you put that on you as well.
like
But no,
I'm worried.
My actual dad was harder on me than he is with my brother and sister, because when I moved in, it was also something that I understood later on. It was more of a big responsibility because I grew up with my grandpa, and when I moved there at 13, it's like in his mind, like I gotta make sure he keeps going on that same trajectory when it comes to the way he was succeeding with growing up with my grandpa.
Okay, so he almost felt a pressure to
exactly
carry the baton and
to
not let
another
you
level. So at that point, so I go
get
from a strict
spoiled.
environment to a structure when I come here.
So he maybe overcompensated. It was like,
and I think about it. I mean, I'm here starting high school, so like mid puberty, mid. I think
so you're 13 when you moved to the United States.
Yeah, I actually
to
moved,
Orlando.
So January, I was 13. My birthday's in March, so
Right.
I turned 14 2 months after.
Yeah, and you go to public school.
Yeah, in the
Orlando,
middle.
Florida.
Yeah, in the middle of the year. That's why I said I didn't have no clue. I finished the first semester in Morocco in 8th grade, and then I moved here, Southwest Middle School.
Now Orlando's a little more diverse. Like if you joined here, that probably would have been like different. But were there
You
other
mean like Jacksonville area?
Yeah, like I feel like it'd be like
you gotta tell people where here is.
why
like,
you here? Yeah,
like what, this right here?
Yeah,
This shit right here.
this right here.
This right here.
So were you like? Did you have other friends from Morocco, or was it like?
Oh yeah, there was some
fish out of water.
Yeah, no, I'm a Pisces, so this happens to be I fit in all the waters, so
Nice.
that helped. So, but me personally, I mean, you know me pretty well, but I kind of fit in with everybody. But Orlando is very diverse,
Right.
And I would say Florida is very diverse, but Orlando specifically very diverse.
Right.
And the Moroccan community in Orlando started because of the pavilion that they had, and they still have in Epcot.
Right.
In the
Yeah, around the
mid-80s,
world. Right.
So a lot of the Moroccan community started with that. So when I came in, there were some Moroccans as students, but I guess I created a name of myself that everybody started calling me Morocco as my
They
nickname.
called you Morocco. That was your
Like
nickname.
teachers would call me Morocco. Matter of fact, my actual Instagram is called Tarik Morocco without any numbers. I'm the first person that had Tarik Morocco. There's a lot of Tariqs in Morocco.
Well, we got to give credit where credit's due because
That happened to
I
me.
was excited to start this podcast this morning. I'm like, we're gonna get it going. And he's like, yeah, dude, Morocco's playing the U.S. in the Olympics. Like, we're not doing the podcast till we watch that.
Yeah, and I'm happy that 4-0, bro. 4-0. I mean,
I think I stopped
by two
watching.
countries together, basically. But I definitely
There's
lean
a cool
towards
story
Morocco,
there
for sure,
too,
yeah.
right? For the people that don't
I
know
have
the history.
spent more time in the United States than I have in Morocco as of today.
Right.
So I've spent more life here.
Right. So you've had this, I guess.
But it happens to be like we talked about it earlier that Morocco is the first country to recognize the United States as an independent country.
That is so cool. So when we declared our independence,
We were like the first people, like, yo,
y'all like, I see you.
yo, good. We knew you guys gonna be somebody. we can recruit talent. Yo,
Right.
we're like from across the sea.
Yeah,
Like, yo,
I
whoa.
got you. Don't forget us.
We're good at that, and we've been great allies since then.
Well, you whooped our butt in soccer today. That's for sure. Well, that's cool.
That's something, at least.
Yeah.
We got something on you. So
when I was in Orlando, I want to get back to the, I think we kind of can just keep talking about the
Yes, sir.
father-son, grandfather-son dynamic because it's such an interesting relationship, the good, the bad, the ugly. But I remember visiting you in Orlando a few years ago. Well, it's been I don't know if this was during Ramadan, but yo, I'm not fasting.
actually, one of the times it was during Ramadan, and you got to a point. I think you were shy, and you were like, "Wait, am I supposed to be fasting?"
I
As
was
long as I'm in
Muslim
actual
for like
household?
3 days, and I was like, nah, dude.
I should be like, am I supposed to be doing it too? Like, nah, I'm fasting. You don't have to.
I was like, I love you, but bro, like I'm a Christian.
Pretty good for you, though.
And I like food during sunlight.
Yeah.
But I remember talking with some of your friends, your close friends that are also Moroccan, and they were telling me, I just didn't know this, maybe everyone knows this, but that Morocco at its like core and in its history has always been a place of like hospitality. Is that kind of the main industry?
Yeah.
Because it seems that like selling and like serving and like customers service sales, like it's like kind of just natural.
Even
like
the
you guys,
geographic of Morocco. I mean, we're we're basically we've always been a trading place
because it's at the top of Africa.
So Northwest Africa, basically. So we're closer to Europe, to Spain. We're like about 20, 25 minutes probably by ferry or so.
So in those first 13 years, were you seeing like sales and markets and like
Yeah,
what was
there.
your exposure to
I was
business?
probably very exposed to a lot of these little things, but I was not like knowing, oh, this is what I'm going to be using here or there. No. I mean, my grandpa is very charismatic, very talkative, very influential in his career and home. And so I grew up with a lot of alpha male influences, and even my uncles from my mom's side, very like alpha.
So as a young boy, essentially, these
Yeah.
first 13 years of imprinting and programming, you're seeing, I like how you put that, like alpha males, confident men.
Yeah, so a lot of it came naturally. I didn't even probably think about it. I can reflect on it now and we can dissect it. But back then, it just
who you were.
You thought that just the norm. Plus, is you had to be very witty and you had to be either that or you're gonna get bullied.
In Morocco.
Oh yeah,
of course, yeah. But I guess
but in Morocco, and especially Casablanca is like the New York City of Morocco. So
so everyone's like kind of
you
sharp
had to
and
be
fun
either that, and I was never like the tallest or somebody that and I don't have any brothers and sisters from my parents together. So I mean, my sister that I have from my dad is 12 years younger.
Right.
And then I have my sister from my mother's side.
So you're kind of an only child.
Yes, and I had my cousins from my mom's side. So when I go there, yes, those are like my brothers and sisters. But at the same time, I always have to be on my own.
Yeah, like when did you figure out that you were like so quick-witted and clever?
Until I met you. You're the first validation. But I was like, oh my God.
It's the perfect response.
But no, man, you started watching. As an adult,
the moment I met you,
I was like, oh my God, somebody gets it. No, so in Morocco, so basically you start figuring out probably like middle school or maybe like even like elementary school, especially when I played soccer all my life. So you start creating another part of my character that came from, that being in sports your whole life.
Right.
Competition creates that.
Right.
So I'm not just competition like YMCA stuff. I'm talking about like not everybody gets trophies in Morocco. So not everybody's a winner.
Thing.
No, it's not like
is it like win lose?
Yeah. It's like win lose. And if you lose, they call you loser too. Like it's not. It's like you're still a winner in my eyes.
Really?
And my grandpa was even harder. Like even if you won, I didn't think you won this the right way.
You could have won more.
Yeah, or
you
better.
Got 4 goals
or something of that sort. So that's another.
So having a high standard was hardwired.
Yeah, and it was not just them like speaking it. It was his like he has something to back it up too. Like his whole life is in front of you. You're living in it, and you see it, and you see his.
Right. So the proof was in the pudding.
Exactly.
Like you didn't have to be like.
So, and that's why a lot of these things you think is the norm. You just that I'm supposed to be like this. I'm supposed to do this. This is what I know. Right. And then you come here and you see your dad is the same thing, if not more, in his own basically community here. And he was already doing all great things in Morocco before he even moved here. So basically, those are things that become second nature to you, and you basically subconsciously start assuming that that's just the norm. Right. Until you start meeting people from outside later on as an adult, and you start seeing their reaction, which also helps with what you said earlier, figuring out that when did you knew that you were cool or witty or any of that is when you start encountering others that show you how maybe unique whatever encounter you just had with them is. Right. So that's when you start, oh, wait. But instead of actually taking it as an arrogant way, you start like, oh, wait, that's something that most people seem to be impressed by. How can I capitalize on it?
Right.
More?
Yeah. What can I do with this besides just being a jokester? Or,
exactly.
A life of the party. Like, what's a way to mature this and develop it into something
and
more...
still be yourself, which is the jokester. So I can't be serious for too long. Yeah, but it's just something that I don't regret. But that's just
I've never seen you not like this. Is it fair to say that like the way you do anything is the way you do everything? Like when you're on the job and you're doing your thing.
I can't. That's the only way I'm congruent with who I have to be.
So you disarm because
we were actually talking about the fact that how much I like the job is because of that.
Right, right.
It's
Yeah,
the
of
only thing
course.
that's just me.
You can't be that successful, like,
I
with
mean,
like
you can. I mean, it's very hard to sustain it though.
right,
Yeah,
right. Because you're
you can
now
be
10
miserable at
years,
some
10
point.
years.
It's exactly 10 years, yeah. In my industry, 2014 I started, and now it's 2024.
Dang, man, that's amazing. So, okay, so let's run this timeline a little bit because it's not that far from 13 moving here to when I met you at 19. Like in my mind, that was
you
like
met me
you were a
6 years
kid.
after
It
coming
was
to this.
really a handful of years. So you're 13, you enter public school in Orlando, Florida from Morocco. You immediately probably went on the soccer team and
In
people
high school, yeah.
high
So
school
in
were
ninth
like, oh, this
grade,
kid's good. Like,
yeah, I mean, that's another thing that helped me basically fit in. And that's when they started calling me Morocco in soccer. And that's went from the field to the actual school and all that.
so did you like, we all got asked as a kid, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? Or did you have any idea either from like the influence of your grandfather or father? Like, did you in high school want to play professional soccer, go to college? Like, what were some of your dreams and aspirations?
I've always
at that
wanted to
time?
play professional soccer.
Okay.
But then when I got here, another thing going back to what my dad was like with me is that he wanted to make sure that he's extremely strict to make sure I have a higher chance to succeed in whatever I'm gonna do, which did not include soccer.
Really?
And,
So he wasn't supportive of soccer?
I mean, it was supportive as a support, as a hobby. He always
But not
made it
as a
very
career.
clear, like, hey, yeah. So, and I still played basically competitive throughout the whole high school and club. Went pretty far many times with states, like as a club team.
Yeah.
But
But when you were having conversations
yeah, he made it
at the
very clear
dinner
that's
table,
not.
it was like,
Yeah,
this is just part of your.
Yeah, there was no comment at the dinner table.
You weren't even talking.
There
You
were
weren't allowed to talk
dinner
about it.
at the dinner table. It's just the conversations. At the
You're
dinner
like,
table.
hey, Dad, I was thinking about soccer.
Yes.
He's like, nope.
Yeah, me too. He's like, me too. We can watch it right there. It's on.
So
But-
what did you want to be when you grow up?
So I
Like,
wanted
yeah.
that as a dream was that, but it was very clear early on in my life because my grandpa played soccer too, but he always made it seem very clearly to me that that's something that you always have to understand that it's very rare that people make it in it, not just because of something that you can't control.
Right.
So even if you can
Injury,
have everything.
Yeah.
So with that being said, it was always basically strong towards academics, and then always I'm with you with soccer,
Right.
but this has to be first. And then when it was here, it was more like this is gonna be first and second and third, and maybe
Right.
play soccer. So
And I think I remember you telling me a story that you did, like you were being recruited to play soccer in
yeah, I
college.
actually played a semester at UCF,
Oh, okay.
and then they had the different teams that they had, but I didn't finish that. And
What happened there? Do you think you?
well, he called me from Morocco, my dad actually, because when I graduated high school that same year, my dad decided to basically try going back to Morocco. He started some business there, so basically he took the whole family, him, my stepmom, my little brother and sister at that time, and moved to Morocco. Rented his place in Orlando, kept me there. Basically, I was living there, and then they moved there for about 2 years. That's when we actually met.
I remember that. I was gonna say, I think
we met about a few months right after that.
it's funny because I think I remember him coming, like visiting
Yes,
from Morocco, and then
yes.
eventually he moved back.
Exactly. So he moved back in 2013.
Right. Okay. So you did some college, you played some ball, but you were probably at that point figuring out what you wanted to do for your career.
Yeah.
Because when I met you in 2012, you were 19 years old. And what year did you graduate high school?
2011.
So you were literally a year out of high school.
Yeah. I was in
And
college.
You were in. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. You were like taking classes.
Yeah.
And
I
we
was
got to
taking
tell the story
UCF
about how we
classes
met.
at Valencia.
That's right. Yeah. So I'm gonna give
And
some
I was
context.
going through what he wanted me to do, which is engineering.
Oh my god, I forgot about that. Yeah, I
my
remember
major
that.
was civil engineering. I was doing pretty well, and actually, when I decided to leave school was way after when I just got to a point. I was after starting working.
Yeah, I
So
remember that because I may or may not have influenced that decision a
yeah,
little bit. Yeah.
but what truly influenced it even more is when I started my actual career that I'm in now.
Right.
That made it
Because
very
I remember you having like books
yes,
in your car.
yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about this because there's some cool stories, like origin story to our meeting, how we connected, and then like how we really connected and became, the friends that we are today. So I had moved to Orlando July 4th. I remember it vividly. 4th of July, 2012. Shooting, Red Bull's killing me. So 2012, I touched down in Orlando. And at that point, I'm 23.
Oh wow.
I am dating Jen. She has a son from her first marriage, Gavin, who will be 17 in September now, which is nuts. But at the time, he was 5.
He has a pretty cool room.
Yeah, he slept in
Not
it.
messed
Right?
up.
Yeah.
If you're watching this, guys,
Yeah. And I moved down to essentially get serious about our relationship as boyfriend and girlfriend.
I was gonna say I don't know much.
It was Jen.
Yeah, and especially when you start with the boyfriend. We're not the most
Not
masculine
that
dress guys either.
Yeah,
so let's make it very clear.
The shoes aren't helping right now.
So we're not the worst looking, so we gotta make sure nowadays, gotta make sure it's very clear.
Okay, so Jen and we moved out. I'm 23 years old. We're boyfriend and girlfriend at the time. We're not married. We don't have kids. 2 weeks later, she lets me know that she's pregnant with Amelia. 2 weeks after that, which was August 10th, 2012, 8, 10, 12, we come up to St. Augustine, where we now live,
It's true.
and get married at the courthouse.
That's that picture there.
Exactly. Right, literally right there.
That's the kind of relationship we have.
Right. That's funny. So yes, that picture right there where I look much younger. And damn, that jawline looked right. What happened, bro? Jen was insane.
Yeah.
So, and then we get like pretty much thrown into marriage, parenting, fatherhood, like a bunch of stuff that I was not exactly prepped for at 23 years old.
I mean, rightfully so.
Yeah, right.
What you would expect.
And all of a sudden, like overnight, I'm a husband, I'm a father, I'm a stepfather, and I have my career / business with Legal Shield that I was 2 years into, and having success, but the kind of success when you're like a single guy that needs to just pay your own bills and make your rent and your car payment, not the kind where you provide for a family of 4 all of a sudden and are in a new place where you don't really know anyone and you're trying to kind of keep your business from back home where you built it intact. So I entered into a really, really hard season in life. I've had some even harder seasons after that. Like it was like the first really hard one.
Of the other
of like a bunch of other hard ones. Yeah. So don't get it twisted.
That's what life is about. Man.
Right, exactly.
Seasons.
Every level has its devil. So
just don't be the same person in all seasons.
Yes.
That's all we can control.
That's good. And be the same person in all the seasons, right? Stay true to yourself. Stay true to your core. That's good. Little nug there. But so you and I meet because I'm recruiting, right? Legal Shield is a network marketing company.
Don't be stagnant as a person. So keep the true self, but develop that true self. That's what I meant to clarify it.
I like that. Yeah.
If you're stagnant, then like we always say, if you're not
growing, you're dying, right? You're ripening, you're rotting,
exactly.
Which we learned from our Legal Shield days, right?
For sure. I learned from you. I learned it from you directly.
I learned it from other people. R&D, man. Rob and duplicate. Sure. It's okay to be a copycat if you copy the right cat, right?
I'm not so much of you, bro.
Right, totally. So I want to tell a little bit about how we connected because
Sure.
it's serendipitous. It's sort of coincidental, and it's also happened.
I am from Morocco, so that first word that you just threw in, no clue what that is. Just make it very clear. I was gonna act like I knew exactly what you said before the coincidental. I got that one. What was that? What was that one?
Yeah, last night I got to tell you guys a little offshoot story. So without a whole lot of context, but we're sitting there. We just been drinking a little bit of wine, catching up, and I mean, you hadn't seen Jen in some time. It was years, right? And at one point, you said something that was like kind of giving me flack about like how I am or who I am, and Jen didn't really like react to it or respond to it. So I like thought I'll step in and I'll be like, I think there's like maybe a little bit of a language barrier. and you and Jen look at each other like, no, we're good. We know exactly.
Like whatever she just got is exactly what I meant. So I'm pretty sure there's no barrier.
I thought maybe I could like, redirect it.
You redirected it
back
to yourself.
We talking about
we
you.
We got it right back.
We're talking about your problems, and we're fine. We don't need any more words.
I think it was clear.
So yeah, I'm not buying that you don't know what these words mean because serendipitous or not. So anyway, so I'm recruiting, right? I'm like on the hunt for talent and for people to build my team and doing that thing. So we would go to this business briefing every week at the Embassy Suites on International Drive. And
next to Uno's, remember?
Yeah, man.
Well, they had nice food.
I could barely afford to get it.
Yeah, me too.
Right. Yeah.
We used to share
Other people were eating some really good food. It was nice of them to share it with us.
They sure did.
So there's kind of a interesting, I don't know, like nugget in here or something, or tip too, because I would go to this event every week, and one week there was just like some extra time, like maybe traffic wasn't as bad. There was like 30 minutes before like we would normally arrive. And I wanted to show Davis, who I had recruited also, who I met in my apartment complex and became buddies with.
Cool dude.
Yeah, great guy. And like, hey, like, let me show you how to kind of like prospect random dudes at Best Buy. Like, let's do this. So he kind of comes and I end up talking to the manager. I'm pretending like I'm going to buy a system or a television and everything. I got like $3 in my bank account. All the money I'm making is going to provide him for a family. And he's like, yeah, which one are you looking at? And I'm like, I'm looking at all of them. And end up talking to him about, hey, do you keep your income options open? Is this what you do full time? Just go through the whole little gamut. And I remember Davis being there and feeling awkward, being like, I'm a pretty confident guy, but I don't like love this part of the gig, where I'm talking to random dudes at Best Buy about their income options being open. And of course, I had to be clear, like, income options, right? Like you keep your options open. Like, income. So we exchange information. I end up recruiting this guy, and he shares the opportunity, shares the business with like a handful of people. We did what was called a private business reception, which obviously you know what that is. We did a lot of them, PBRs, and he has like 2 or 3 people show up, and one of these guys at the end of the presentation, Mo, is like
one of my best friends.
Right? Is
I
like
was actually best friend with his brother, but whole family.
He's like, family. I love this service. My parents have had it for years. I use it all the time for speeding tickets.
He still does.
I was gonna say, probably does. And he's like, I drive a BMW. I get tickets all the time. I'm like, cool. So we recruit this guy. That guy, Mo, he didn't do anything. Like he didn't get plugged in. He actually like disappeared. And then a few months went by because this probably happened like in the fall, and then a couple months went by and it was like the winter. And I am like promoting an event, what they would call a Super Saturday. And I'm just going through the list, and I just convinced him to come to this event. And he's like, yeah, I'm not really sure if I'm into it. And I'm like, bro, just come to this event. Like if it's not for you, all good. So he goes, public speaker comes in. He's like, cool. He goes home. This is how the story goes. And he finally decides, you know what, I'm going to open up my like kit, you know, the materials that the company sent me, and like engage in this, which I think that was the extent of his engagement, right? He just essentially opened it up on the counter. And then my understanding is that you walked into the house because you're
I go there every day
all the time with his best friends with his brother, friends with the family.
the whole family. Yeah.
Tell me from your point of view,
I come in like I usually.
What happened there? Yeah,
I just I think he's outside in the patio, and I just look at this thing in the middle of the kitchen counter, like you said, and obviously had the CD, like you said, tools and events came from an event. Had tools in his hand. So sometimes even without you, you doing anything, just having them around.
Seeds.
So yeah, I opened it. I was like, bro, what is this? He goes, yeah. I said, I started reading, and then I went back home and actually like watched it, and I texted him like, bro, this is cool.
Because he like was like almost like you were recruiting yourself, and he's like, yeah, it's all right.
I'm almost told me like, you should want to open that.
You're like, yeah, I want to do this. He's like, like I can introduce you to the guy or whatever, right? And then I remember him calling me.
Yeah, but Mo is the man. So he did that.
He's a beast.
And that's it. We connect.
And then we connect, and you come out to an event. Right?
Yes. Yeah.
And was I speaking at that event?
Yes, you were. And I was standing in the front row too.
Yeah, that's right. I remember this now. That's funny. It all just came back. So we're at the Embassy Suites.
Yeah.
I'm speaking. There's probably, I don't know, 4 million people there. No, there's like 40, like not that many people, but it was cool. It was like a decent size audience,
wow.
Right? And I'm doing my thing. And I remember you sitting front row, and then
because you made me. It's not like,
that's right.
I just make sure we clear that vibe. It's not like, just so jacked up. You're like, yo, no, you don't want it. Yeah. So
this is wild, dude, right? Because I mean,
you made me get up on the first shot for no reason, just to explain. Like,
well, no, I had talked to you, and I knew from one conversation that you were sharp.
In my mind, there was no reason.
Right. In your mind,
you had reason.
I had a reason.
Yeah. That's
my
why we
reason
call it
was
mentor mentee for a reason. You see things before the other person might see them.
Right. As a heat-seeking missile for talent, I was like, this dude's.
It's a heat-seeking missile.
This dude's sharp, man. I'm like, this kid is like a freaking savant. I mean, I don't know what it was. Like, just a couple interactions, a couple talks. So I'm like, come on, sit up front. And the sort of rest is history at that point, because you engaged and had success relatively, right? But you didn't you never broke through. I never really broke through beyond making a living.
Another thing in my life to compare it to. So in my mind, that is very much.
It's a big moment, right?
Of course.
Talk to me about that, and for our listeners, because I think sometimes people can discount seasons in their life that are truly meant for preparation. They're meant for incubation. They're meant to prepare your mind and your heart and your skills for something that might not be that vehicle, but the high altitude training and the developing and the associations that you're making are just like calibrating you for massive success. And you've broken through in really rare air in your industry, in the world, in the like just literally like socioeconomically, you live at the tippy top of the ladder. And I don't know, I don't want to give it, too much, because I think you would have figured it out either way. But that couple years from like 19 to 21 was pretty pivotal, wouldn't you say, getting around the legal shield and personal development environment?
Yeah. But like you said earlier, so some people
I don't want anyone to miss what you're saying. Get close to that mic.
Yeah. So some people discount where like a different season they're in, and that's fine. But just be always mindful that whatever season you're in, you might be using it for something, as long as you funnel it towards something that's positive for you, even if that season was bad. Not that the legal season was bad.
Right.
But so always, especially later on, like we're talking 10 years, 15 years, 12, 14 years now, when you look back and you reflect, it's very obvious that it was a huge pivotal moment and season for my life. actual as an industry of network marketing, and obviously you being the actual influence for me within that. So, and how much time we've spent together and all of that. So the personal development part in Legal Shield gave me a huge head start when I got into my industry, still in sales. But so subconsciously, and you said that like you're basically what was the word that you used yesterday? It's not subconsciously competent. Is
Oh, you're unconsciously competent.
unconsciously competent. So you get to a position that you start seeing things basically come to uh, you come to realize some results that you also know that it was not fully you right away, unless you want to be delusional to yourself.
Right.
So and then you start going back and you're like, well, okay, well, now you see this is this is coming from this side.
Right.
So this personal development side of Legal Shield for 2 years basically was a huge part when I just started my sales career, which is basically 100% commission, and that's basically what Legal Sheet was.
Right.
So I came in with a bulletproof mindset without knowing that that's a huge asset to have in a 100% commission base.
Right.
Based on when you're dealing with rejection, and I already have read the book Go for No that you showed me, and I'm like, and so all these things that when I got into the industry was very young, 20 years old basically. I turned 21. I was actually
I mean, this is amazing, Tarik, because, and I mean this with all due respect, but you are earning more than almost everyone in Legal Shield, including the people that we sort of like worshipped. You know, I mean, we weren't like weird about it, but we would go to these events, we would travel to the conventions, we got around it, we would take notes. I mean, I know you and I both have stacks and stacks notebooks of people that were essentially our mentors, either closely or from a distance. And for you to develop a mindset and a skill set and a tool set that has now become your asset in that environment, and then surpass. I mean, I know the numbers. There's like a handful of people that make more money than you with that company after 50 years. And again, money's not everything, but it's easy to count. And there's pros and cons to different industries. And just for clarity's sake, Tarik didn't go to another network marketing company, so it's not you jump ship to some other network marketing company.
I'm in vacation ownership sales, which is timeshare. Some people would probably know that.
Right. So you went from cutting your teeth formally in entrepreneurship and sales and recruitment through the Legal Shield experience. Joe Connell, our now chief revenue officer, we sat in this very chair and kicked off this podcast and talked all about a very similar journey about how much it revolutionized his life and changed, his trajectory.
I watched it.
Oh yeah, right. So
Is that right there?
Yeah, no, it's messed up, right?
I didn't say that.
This is my chair.
Whatever, you put me out there with the guy for no reason. You've been responsible for your own words. I just said I watched the podcast. That's nice.
I'm messing with you.
You guys both look.
It was undecided. Yeah, I wasn't sure where I was going to. I actually already knew that I was going to say it. I was like, you kidding me?
He's a big dude, though.
Yeah,
that's why I didn't sit there. You're bigger than me. So.
He just sits down. I was like, I guess we're going to practice our how to win friends and influence today. I'm joking. But okay, so I want to like really dive into this because one, I'm curious just to get your mind working on this a little bit because I know I didn't prepare you at all for this podcast because I refused to.
That's what our relationship is.
Right. It's real time. So the question I'm about to ask is, what are some of the specific things that you learned in that season, right? And because of your development and because you did what everybody does, which is R&D, not research and development, but rob and duplicate, you've taken ownership of these things. It's like we all sort of have a mental like works cited list where we can be like, oh, I actually read that there, or I heard that there, or that person taught me that. But if you are constantly trying to like credit everything to everyone else, like it's a research paper, end quote, you're missing the power that's in it becoming part of who you are. So like, I'll give credit where credit's due. But I'm like, nah, this is my philosophy now. This isn't
You embody,
Ralph
you
Waldo
have to embody
Emerson's.
it.
Yeah, like I'm bought into this. So you might as well put Dash Nathan Bourne because I live
That's
it.
how it's supposed to be. Yeah,
Agreed.
so I think crediting things is great, but without being arrogant about it, you have to embody it.
Right.
And you have to have results to back it up, and that helps you embody it more. So a lot of people that keep just crediting, I think they just lack the results of what they know. Like, it's not just knowledge is power. It's like we always say, applied knowledge. And sometimes even applied knowledge without results, or maybe just not results yet, would probably not help people have the confidence to embody something, and they always feel insecure about just embodying it because society would make them basically look weird that they don't have the results right now
Right.
to back it up. So that helped me because I didn't have that much to compare it to when I started my industry.
Right.
So, but going back to what are the things that helped a lot? Personal development was huge. Books, getting in the habit of, and I would mention Brian Carruthers, that we had the book of the month. So that was all new stuff to me.
It's not like you stopped having a book of the month.
Of course,
but
but
even
that
if
was
you
the
weren't-
start.
Right.
So, like you said, you can credit, but then now you have to embody it yourself. So it's okay to credit,
Right.
but did you capitalize on it or not?
Right.
What did you do with it? So personal development was great, and that gave me a thick skin on top of me being witty and being from Morocco and all the upbringing. And now you're actually bringing it to reality, and you're becoming an adult,
Right.
and you're coming into
maturing it,
society. Now you have to now you're not just taking in. Now you have to take in, and you're still a young adult, and now you're creating. And also, you're not expected to have everything figured out. So that helped with less pressure. I didn't have a family. I didn't
You
go
had to grow
into,
up, yeah.
I didn't have all of that. So I didn't have a lot of expectation that sometimes reduces the actual confidence that people might get if you didn't have that. Basically, I was okay with myself failing forward until you figure out. I just happened to figure out quicker.
Yeah. I love this, man. I wanna share with everyone some nuggets, some secret sauce about you that I've been obviously.
You do know me pretty well.
I know
If
you
not-
well,
if not very well. I mean, compared to everybody else.
right. Yeah, I mean, I think I have.
You're one of the few that know me very well. We spend a lot of time together.
Right, and a lot of like specific
Stages
space,
of our life.
yeah, like both in timeline and in some stories that we'll tell
Sure,
that,
yeah,
are,
for
that
sure.
are fun and funny, the struggle and the triumphs. But I want to ask you a question, and I'm going to ask myself the same question. So I'm gonna ask myself the question as though you asked it of me, and then I want you to answer it. I'm gonna ask it of you. So the question is, Nathan, what is one thing that you learned from me, uniquely me, Tarik? Not the general books that we read or the environments or trainings that we were in, but it was like credited. Like, this is something I watched you live out, have seen you continue to embody, and it's like something that I admire about or am like, kindred in. It can be anything. So then I want you to answer that about me, right? I feel hopefully there's something, but I hope there's something that you might be like, I got nothing, man. But if you can think of something that is like, Nathan, I learned this from you, and it has been like part of who I am and how I approach things since. So I'm going out on a limb for that to be the case, but I want to answer it first for you. There's a couple kind of ways that I'm going to answer this. One, if I had to put it into one word that I've learned from you, that word would be confidence. Like, your confidence. Shit.
It's scary sometimes.
Dude, it's amazing. Like, I've never.
It's not fake.
It's not fake at all, and that's what I want to unpack, because I
And you
think
helped me understand that it's something to use the right way.
Okay, so
That's not the one that I'm going to use though.
Okay.
This is still on your answer.
Cool. Yeah, no, I mean, this is conversation, not interview with, so,
Sure,
so
for
we'll,
sure.
we'll keep kind of just working it out and sparring it out. But I want to like help people understand that this confidence is certainly a, a nature nurture. Like there's our gifts God given that you clearly have that come from where you were born in the world, the way that you were raised those first 13 years, the experience you had in the US of A. And there's just like some things that are just uniquely Tarik El Mazani. And then there's also like all the environments that you've been in. So that's all well and good, but there's also some personal choices that you've made, some decisions that you've made along the way, and make like moment by moment that I don't think are reserved for special people. Like you can just choose to believe in yourself. You can choose to be confident. You can choose to demand more out of life. And I think that so few people do that. They just settle in and go, well, this will do.
I think most decisions are by choice that would help you get these things. Yeah, I think more of the choices that we get to make on a daily basis are more of choices other than born with it, grew up with it, had something to do with. I think there are more things that we can control,
Right.
no matter where we are in any level or any aspects of life, than the ones that we cannot. But I think society makes it seem like that's the opposite,
Right.
and most people bought into that.
Mm.
And I think people like you with podcasts like this and with a lot of different things that you do, including with me, and I've seen you do it with a lot. It's a reminder to everybody that there's greatness in everyone, and it's okay to basically develop it,
Right.
and it's okay to let people know that hey,
And
you
we
got
may
greatness
we
in
may
you.
define God differently or our faith differently from Christianity to Islam, from being a Christian to being a Muslim, but the core beliefs are the same. That we're not so crazy to think that we aren't the all and be all. We don't have insane egos. Like this is the true purest like form of confidence, and it is ridden with insecurities and it is ridden with pain,
Of
and it's
course,
not like just
confidence is
some
not the
beautiful
absence of
thing.
insecurity. Confidence is having insecurities and being able to be okay with it and be okay with creating a safe space for your insecurity without leaving what God gave you and what you actually developed. It's not
Yeah.
the absence of insecurity.
And this is really like I haven't even let me expand upon this, because
Please.
confidence would be like if I had to sum it up in one word, but to unpack it a little bit, what I've watched you do, since I've known you, and you do it micro and you do it macro. So you've done it like in all areas of your life, and you've done it in your career, and you've done it in business, and you've done it in sales. But you also do it like in the moment, like in the conversation. And I wonder if some of this is cultural, where because you didn't grow up in the United States and English is not your first language, you've had to learn real time, like in the conversation, what a person is saying. And I've watched you with such confidence. It almost teeters on like gaslighting, because I've watched somebody say something to you that I'm like, I don't think he really knew what they just said, but he's going to move forward with what he does know. And he's going to pick up later in the conversation with context clues and deductive reasoning and
Sometimes
inferences.
that's the only choice to have.
Right, where you can be like, I don't know what you said, bye.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So instead, you just stand there in the things that you do know.
Yeah, without lying to yourself, but without also like downgrading who you are just because I didn't fully understand.
Right.
Because technically I didn't fully understand because I also know another language fully that you don't.
Right. Come into my
That's
world
one
and
of the,
see how
so
you
instead
do.
of me telling you that, I know that. So that probably exudes that confidence subconsciously, because a lot of immigrants have that.
right?
I was actually watching a funny TikTok. I don't remember her name as the actress. It's like a Spanish actress that has a very thick accent, and then she was saying she was talking to her husband in this show, TV show. Probably talk about it later, but she said, "I don't think you understand how smart I am in Spanish."
Oh, yeah,
So
yeah.
that's basically something that I've
that's-
always had.
right.
That basically says, I don't think you know how smart I am in Morocco
Right,
or in my
right,
language
right.
or in where I come from. So
Dude.
that without me thinking about it. So that did exude.
What an interesting, like, and there's a reason why,
So it's true, but instead of doing that and stopping at that and being arrogant about it and not wanting to learn more,
right.
so you still ask, but at the same time, you don't have to put yourself down.
As you were sharing a few moments ago, this thought came to mind around like privilege versus persistence and perseverance. And I thought it's interesting because this sort of terminology, definitely through some of the more controversial issues around like white privilege and male privilege. And I recognize that. Like I'll even
I'm glad.
say I'm glad.
I'm glad at some point. I mean, I've been waiting for you to recognize some privileges, bro.
We're having a moment. Yeah, that's good.
Like, oh God.
Yeah, like I say, I'm like, yo, I'm a white
joking.
male in America. Like I'm winning already. Like I've won the jackpot just by being a white male in America. And if you don't, and I'm a pretty raging Republican, so this isn't like a woke thought. This is just like a reality that in the United States of America, what'd you say?
I said, so am I.
Which one?
A raging Republican.
Raging Cajun Republican. So
you don't need to be very white to have the same belief in those principles.
Yeah. I thank you, man. That helps. That helps with the narrative.
I got you. Yeah. I see what you're going.
Yeah. I'm put that. So like that is something that I actually.
I never believed in that. By the way, the white privilege.
You never believed.
I never believed that was something against me. I never felt that, especially with you, because I've had more encounters with you, that I felt that you had something because you're white over me, or especially your life, right? I mean,
right. Well, it's funny.
Most people might look at the outside and use that card, not understanding that you have no freaking clue what you're talking about.
Right. And context matters,
of course,
because like Theo Von, who I think is hilarious, and is just an interesting fella, the comedian.
Yeah.
And he's kind of shifted more recently into more philosophy. He's interviewed on his show, some thought leaders, and he had Anthony Robbins on there, and just like Jordan Peterson, like some real heavy duty, like high caliber thinkers. Sure. And he has stand-up. He has a stand-up bit that is about white privilege. And he's joking because he grew up white poor like I did. And he's like, what privilege? He's like, I'm 2 tank tops in the winter.
Like I didn't grow up poor at all.
And his punchline, yeah, exactly.
That's so for somebody to just stop at white privilege, that's my point. I'm glad you get, because I really don't like that.
Yeah.
Or that doesn't mean there isn't, but for you to discount yourself right off the get-go before you even know the person, and even when you do and you start using that to basically,
nothing's that simple, because here's the thing, right?
Of course, that's why I said
if I get pulled over because I'm speeding or
we talked about it earlier this morning.
I know, it was real time, and it came to mind because you we're driving this sick G-Wagon that you have that's like desert. It's like the color of your skin.
It's called desert sand.
Desert sand. It's a beautiful car. I'm getting a massage in the freaking seat from it. It's sick. Yeah, it's got like a built-in massage. Nice. And
we're blessed, man.
Amen. And I think to myself, because you're going a little bit fast and the thing moves and there's a cop, and then you made a joke. You were like, "Oh, we'll probably be good."
Because you're right before that. You said this area is not that. Well, how about what did you say first? Well, let's make sure we get what you said. Instead of getting to my part, you said, just to let you know, it's not as diverse of an area here.
I said that?
Of course. Then I said, well, I'm glad you're with me because if the cop stops us, I'm going to say, yo, Nate, can you just let him know?
Let you know what's up. You know? Like,
I believe it,
you're not
too.
in Kansas anymore. It's messed up. But I guess what I'm saying is like, if white privilege is true, and I can get with that, it's not true in every scenario. So getting pulled over, I'd probably have a better chance of having a smoother experience in most parts of town. Like that's just white male in a vehicle pulled
Sure.
over. The assumptions are probably, oh, you know, he must have just forgot to put his tail light in or something versus what's in the trunk. I mean, that's a real thing. I acknowledge that. But you know what's not a real thing is getting accepted to an Ivy League school where you are part of the masses of Caucasian people that have gone to the best schools to prepare you, literally preparatory schools. So in a way that has the adverse effect, right? As I'm trying to get into Harvard and Penn and Stanford, and I'm getting accepted in the aggregate of the most competitive part because I'm not a minority. There is no affirmative action. There is no, oh, well, we need to fill this many type of this people. And if it was socioeconomic, if it was like, hey, we need to have X amount of people that have this type of, you know, that are below the poverty line, I'm like, yeah, I'm below the poverty line and I'm a Division I athlete and I'm an Ivy League student. I'm not saying that to boast or brag or to impress you. Actually, that's exactly what I'm saying. But, you know, but rather to impress upon that these things aren't as simple as they
But the same
seem.
scenario with the cop that you just mentioned, if you were, as soon as he spoke to you, you spoke in a way that was very rude, very defensive,
Disrespectful.
Don't you think, even though you might have the white privilege,
that goes out the window
guess
real
what?
fast.
And guess what? That goes the other way as well. I don't have the white privilege that you just mentioned, but I also have an education that my family gave me the right way. I have manners. I have things that I have been pulled over before with white cops, with a lot of different situations that from outside they might feel that I would have basically a disadvantage. But since I never felt that way and I treated the cops in a way that I think supposed to be treated, gave me at least a chance for me not to be treated the wrong way. Yes, there's good and bad and everything, including cops. But I think we should focus on what we can control instead of always using cards differently, because that goes back to the confidence earlier that we talked about. Because I'm literally discounting who I am right out the gate when I say, well, everything is white privilege, instead of saying that, well, if let's say it is white privilege on any aspects of life, then I should give more credit to myself going into these situations, whatever they are, work wise, the cop situation, getting promotions, whatever it is. And that would help you with even more confidence instead of defeating yourself before you even get to that situation.
Well, I think you're somebody that, you know, when we met, I didn't have language for this yet. I hadn't like packaged.
I didn't have language when we met. So you didn't have language for this. I didn't have language.
I was about to talk about trademarks. I'm talking about trademarks. You're talking about English. I was
talking about like ways of
my
communication.
next sentence was I hadn't trademarked lead with who.
Yes.
You're like, I hadn't alphabeted.
Yeah.
Dude, that's funny. So like I didn't know what it was yet, you know, because this was 13, 14, 12 years ago.
Oh, you always had the name Core though, since I met you.
Right, remember that.
Team Core.
Yeah.
Team Core.
Yeah, man, that's right.
Founder.
Remember
let him know.
Say,
let him know.
let him know.
Let him know.
Remember our tagline was be more, be core, do more. Be core, do more. It's kind of
worry less, live more.
Yeah. Well, that too. Yeah. So here's what I'm kind of getting at, I guess, or what's kind of turning in my brain as we're kicking these things around, is that the word privilege, take the white part out, just privilege. It's a synonym of gratitude, right?
Of
Like
course.
we bastardized that word, but really, I think that you're somebody that starts everything you do and embodies everything you do with this form of
Oh,
gratitude that
you.
I'm
Oh,
so
yeah.
lucky, I'm so fortunate.
I
What an
am.
opportunity, because you
Oh, yeah.
are, especially relative to your age, relative to where you were born. I mean,
I've
obviously
had a
there's
lot of
opportunity.
advantages for
You've had a
sure.
lot of
Oh, yeah.
privilege. So like
Yeah.
you are
Privilege.
privileged.
Yeah.
And just for clarity, you didn't grow up like a poor immigrant
Oh,
that,
no.
barely made
Never.
it
My
to the
dad lives in the
US.
best,
You guys lived well in
place
Morocco.
in Morocco. And even when I moved here, my
Right.
dad lives in the best place in Orlando, Bay Hill, where they actually play
Right.
the
Like golf.
Arnold Palmer tournament. So and I never had like any like issues with anything. Like, it was not like we
No,
were.
no
No, we were
struggle.
traveling everywhere, we're
Right.
taking care of. I mean, we were not. Basically, we're not trust fund babies, but
Right. Right. But
it's
you were
not.
in the
Of course, yeah.
upper class,
Of course, yeah.
you might not be an emperor's
Sure.
child or something,
But
but you
yeah,
were in the upper tier
had
of
a very,
society.
very filled of. I mean, my life was very filled of gratitude for sure.
And you could have probably taken advantage of that or just rode that out, but still work ethic.
Yeah, that never took away from the education that my dad is sending you subconsciously when you see him working 12 hours to provide that for you, especially when he worked from home.
So
So
you
my dad
saw it.
did
It wasn't just
e-commerce his whole
words.
life.
You
When
saw it.
of course, so you see the results, but again, it's instilled in you, saying that there's a reason why, and he saw that from my grandpa.
Yep.
So that and it's
So it's the classic, I'm sorry, what you're doing is so loud, I can't hear you. Right. So that happened in a positive way
of
because
course.
you didn't just hear the rhetoric from your father and grandfather. They didn't just talk the talk, they walked the walk, and
Hmm.
then you followed in their
And you have
footsteps
to
and
capitalize.
created
Yeah,
your own
of
groove, right? Your
course.
own style, your own
Yeah, yeah.
approach, So I want to go back to the thing that I've learned about you and continue to learn about you, because the anchor of it is confidence, but the way that it like manifests, the way that it comes out is sort of the epitome, the essence of failing forward. Because I've watched you stumble through, but not the way that, like, I've had like some hard blows, like divorce and financial and just like a lot of things that were just like struggling, right? We talked about this a little bit last night too, because I want to have a conversation around respect and why I think it's so important amongst particularly men, the relationships in like masculine relationships. But I'll get to that in a moment. But it's like, so you have this anchored core confidence, and then you keep going with the expectation, the positive expectation that you're going to win. Like, there's no doubt. I don't think you have 1% doubt, because 1% doubt and you're out. And I don't think you have any doubt that there's anything that you can't do. Like I know that sounds crazy. And for people that are small minded, they will think those are delusions of grandeur. But if I said something like, hey, Tarik, do you think you would ever want to be the president of the United States of America? You'd probably be like, yeah, maybe. We'll see if it's in the cards. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe. Oh, wait, did you have to be born here? Like it's just like, it's not like, what? That's crazy. You know what I mean? So I love that about you. I think it's something that we have in common that is not just like a safe space, but like a cool space, because sort of nothing is off limits because there aren't any limits. And yet we're not
But at the same
delusional.
time, you don't feel like you're entitled to it.
Right.
So it's okay to have that winning mentality and be okay with, like one of my favorite basketball players, LeBron James, always says, I play the game the right way and I live with the results. He doesn't say
Yeah.
I guarantee the results.
Right.
And Michael Jordan said,
Right.
maybe I tricked you guys by making you feel maybe I've always made the shot. But there's a commercial that he does, I think, something of that sort. But
Right.
maybe you did not see how many shots I missed. Maybe you did
All the
not see.
failures. Yep.
So going in with the winning mindset does not mean you're gonna always guarantee it. But you said just going in. You didn't say you feel like you're entitled.
Right.
That doesn't mean you never lost. It doesn't mean you never had. But as long as I'm going in with that, why would I go in with a losing mentality? I'm already defeating myself before I even get to the things that might defeat me or might defeat them. So I'm already giving myself a position
I'm
of
going in.
yeah, literally.
Going in.
Not my goal. Not my goal. Huh? So, but that's basically it. That doesn't mean you're delusional. Like you said, if you have a small mind, you might think, oh, you think you're gonna do it. That's not what we're saying. We're not saying I'm literally thinking that I'm gonna be able. No, I'm literally thinking that I have all it takes for me to do what all it takes. Am I gonna do what's gonna take? That's a different story, which is what
I
the
always
results
like
will
how
be
you
like.
say that. You've said that for years because it's pretty badass and like arguably mean, and I like it. Which is
What is it?
we've talked about people because I try to if I talk bad about people, I do it behind their back. So I'm not gonna do it right now. But like if
Because they're all watching.
crazy. Like the only time you ever talk bad to people is behind their back, out of their face. You savage.
I'm the opposite.
Yeah, I know.
That's the only thing that gives me. I'm okay with it because at least I said it to you.
Right.
Like,
so we've had conversations about people that maybe have been in or out of our circles, or that we've like thought, man, they gave up, or why'd they stop, or and you've always taken it back to what I think you and I just have a very like clear form of thinking around. And I might say it differently. Like I might say something like, yeah, they just didn't think big enough, or I think they just didn't have the faith that it would require. And then you'd always keep it real practical, a matter of fact, and be like, they have small minds. Like they can't.
I like the accent.
Right. But I'm like, so like the way you say that, and you just said it a moment ago, which is like if they have
And I don't say it in a derogatory way. I
know it's a matter of fact.
And I keep working on my mind on a daily basis to make sure I keep on growing it. I'm not successful on that on a daily basis. Neither are you. And we keep on working on these things. Like just because we say something, it's not we're saying we're better. No, it's more like that's what it is. Right. That doesn't mean I'm not in that at certain moments in my life or daily situations. You just at least you acknowledge that's what it is.
So where do you source from for this ironclad mindset? Because for me, and this has all even been a little bit like radical for me, because as a Christian, I have a very specific way that I approach my faith. It is the Trinity. It's the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, and the literal Trinity amongst that. And I have like a connection to that, and in like, approaching everything I do in life that way. So for me, like sales is not hard. I don't consider myself in sales, but if you believe what I believe, or what I know I believe, and that we share in common, that sales is a transference of belief, then you're really only ever gauging what level of belief you have, right? What level of belief you have in yourself, what level you believe that this person should participate in this program or this product or this service. And it's like, I've been sort of dumbfounded by your confidence, your, I would say, faith, and the way that you can just like do the deal consistently and keep lifting the lid. I have like childhood trauma. I have like poverty that I wanted to, transcend out of. I have this like cosmic, eternal, like advancing of the kingdom, and I'm a child of God, and that's why I have to like crush it in life. And I also have a big family that looks up to me, 5 children. So it's like I have like a lot of things that have like made me talk big and walk big and like move boldly through life. I'm curious. I mean, I know some of it, but I want our listeners to hear, like, where do you source from to have such a genuine confidence? Because you are a stud, you're a good looking guy, but like me, you're not like 6'4", played in the NBA. I mean, there's not like anything other than what you believed and decided upon and then built. It wasn't like the chicken or the egg, like which came first? Like, oh, I'm so successful, so I act confident. It's like, no, I acted confident. I acted as if, and now I'm successful. And I think so many people think that when they have the things, the trappings, then they'll speak their mind. Then they'll speak up about their beliefs. But it's like, it doesn't work that way. You know what I mean? Like, oh, you know what, man, when I have a bunch of followers and listeners, I'm gonna start a podcast. Like, no, dog, start the podcast. Just start doing it and then watch what happens. So I'm just kind of curious, like, where on a regular basis, because you said it earlier, if you're not ripening, you're rotting. If you're not growing, you're dying. So it's not like this thing is set. It's not like, oh, I spent 2 years with Nathan Bourne and Legal Shield and I'm set for life. Like every single day you're renewing your mind.
Of course.
How what does that look like? What's a day in the mind of Tarik, I guess?
Well, so I'll start the answer with this: that the upbringing always goes back to that. The upbringing could be a positive influence, could be a negative influence in your life based on how you want to funnel it. And it doesn't, just like how you keep on mentioning poor, you could have taken that the wrong way and you could be like, oh, but this is what it is, it is what it is. Or you could have been like, but that's the reason why I cannot be.
Right.
Also, not being too poor. I mean, we're not kings,
Right,
but
right, right.
it was like middle class, but very comfortable. So me seeing that, I could have had one option of saying, well, I'm just gonna ride that, or I'm gonna be like, I cannot be nothing, either that or more. So that shadow behind me every single day. Now it's my dad right there next to me. We live 5 minutes away.
Right.
So you cannot be average. And then you go back to, with all the privileges you've had and advantages you've had, you can't be average.
Right.
That's the philosophy. But then you have to, like you said, add the actions to it of capitalizing on those things. Or you could have just been lazy about it and it's like, oh, he's already living in a nice place. I'm going to stay with him and just rely and just hold on to his quote. Or instead of saying, no, but that's your dad or that's your grandpa. So I always go back to my upbringing and go back to the people that influenced me. And I looked at that as my start, my source to build upon when I became an adult as a philosophy. That's how it started. And then you started having your own successes, quote unquote, that helped you with that. And you said that, I don't know, there's a song that I really like from Drake. He says, I had someone tell me I fell off. Oh, I needed that. And they want to see me pick it up. Where I leave it at.
That's good.
So that's how I think about my dad and my grandpa. So it doesn't mean you're always succeeding, but when you do go little corrections in your life,
Right.
always remind yourself of who you really are, because that's what really gets you back to what you need to go to. It doesn't mean you're already there, but always remind yourself of who you really are. So that would answer it.
Yeah, and one of the, I think the hardest thing around that foundation and that core building those philosophies and core beliefs that make up your identity and keep you anchored and keep you tethered and keep you grounded, is that most people in your life will not fan that flame, will not fuel that fire. I mean, they'll probably be either indifferent because they're thinking about
That's
themselves.
why you get to choose. That's why you get to choose who to spend the most time with.
So
I mean, we don't see-
associations
of course,
are
huge.
everything,
Yeah.
right? And that this kind of segues into this conversation around respect, because I think, like most people, probably, especially high caliber people, vulnerability is a really uncomfortable space. It's a tough thing to grapple with, and you're not always gonna win. Like even
Yeah.
Tom Brady
Accept
lost a
that.
few Super Bowls, I think, right? Like you're
Cristiano
not always
Ronaldo, Messi.
right.
I mean,
I'm not sure what you're saying, but yeah. Soccer players or football.
but your
True
dad is a
football.
big soccer player. Your kids are a pretty good soccer player.
Right.
You're
We
a
got
pretty
the-
good wrestler.
Thank you. Thank you.
Let's not.
Yeah, let's keep it.
Let's just be honest with
Let's just
you.
keep it. We want to keep this RZA safe.
Well, just because you're a
space.
great athlete, you do play soccer, but that's fine.
I broke my dad's heart when I stopped playing soccer. Yeah.
I broke my back this morning. You deadlift.
That was a PR, man. What'd you hit?
I don't know. You counted them. That's
Yeah, I judged you all the way
how. I
up.
know.
Nah, you hit it. You hit it.
Since I was 19,
I'm
not
a
just
little
the weight.
right, the whole time.
Very judgmental.
Oh man. So what I'm getting at is that when you met me, when I met you, when we met each other, you met me in a good light, right? I was in front of the room speaking. I probably had a suit on, and it was like, oh, okay, here's a guy not that much older, 5 years older than me. So at that time I would have been 24 and you were 19, because it was the winter. It was like right before the new year, I think we had met, right? And he's speaking in front of these people and he's sharing his story about having success. Now, you didn't know that I had a big start, and then I came back down pretty quickly from the money that I had earned. And then I added all the complexities of adulting and becoming a father and stepfather, and moving 1,000 miles away and all the things. Obviously, all that has worked out, but not without a lot of pain, not without a lot of struggle, not without a lot of mistakes. So there was a moment, a season really, where it was like you were seeing that this person, Nathan, and you've maybe not thought about this is a little my point of view, right? Is okay, maybe he's not as successful. Like they only have one car, because I think maybe he had to get rid of that. I think he had a BMW when I first met him, but then did he get rid of that? Now they're down to one car. And like I know that his wife stays at home, but she's not like she's homebound, like she's stuck at home because he's got the car. And then wait a second,
I didn't think any of that, but
so this is where I think that sometimes people,
because I've always had something in me that I look at who the person is,
right?
and that's why our relationship never changed, and because we've never looked at
The ebb and flow of results.
that's
Is
not what
just
I'm
like,
interested
who
in.
are you?
That's not my goal.
Right.
So, and that's another thing that comes from my upbringing of my grandparents' side, and then from my mom's side, the chaos and all of that. So I was never judgmental based on things from that are superficial, because that's never what I'm looking into.
Well, see, and I know that now after all
Yeah,
these
that's
years.
just, yeah, because that's never been the case.
It's
I
been
never,
the core tethering of
and
our
like you said,
relationship.
we talked about money, and a lot of people have this weird thing that they don't.
It's taboo.
Money is basically just a tool
Right.
that just amplifies who you really are.
Yeah.
It's very nice to look for, but it cannot be the measurement of your value.
Right.
Because if that's the case, then you're telling me it goes up and down. So you're telling me your value goes up and down based on
Right.
what numbers you got on the bank account?
So good.
So that means you're telling yourself, you're limiting yourself. That doesn't take anything away from how important money is, but you're literally telling yourself, and that's what society has instilled in us. And we have two choices: either keep going with that, or understand that plays a huge part in our mental health,
Right.
relationships. Take money away from who you are as a person, and know that you are the one that creates it or does create it.
Right.
So if you know that, you'll be okay when it's ups and downs. Doesn't mean you're a robot and you're not going to be happier when you have more or less. No, but it cannot be a measurement of your value.
Yeah, a lot of people have this wrong too, man. They look at the outcomes, the trappings of success, and there's nothing wrong with having nice.
Of course,
things
I love that. I mean, that's what you work hard for.
Right.
But when you don't
And
have
you got
it,
some nice.
and you kept on mention it. 19, I probably had more confidence when I was 19 than I have now. I probably would have nothing. And you testified to that.
And I think that's what our connection has always been, is that we had sort of a social contract, a deep understanding that no matter what car I drove, status I had,
It doesn't.
it's like, I'm going to be me authentically. I might at some
And
time
that's my biggest asset.
Well, that's the thing.
As a human, that should be your biggest asset, bro. At the end of the day, and that's sometimes when they say somebody comes and the energy shifts, it's because of that. It's not because they're God. No, it's because they have such a confidence in who they are.
Right.
That doesn't mean you don't have ups and downs with yourself. Like bad day, good day. No, at least you know who you are. That means you will never face me, whoever you're in front of me. You're not going to change how I feel about myself. Only I can do that. And that itself, it helps you exude more confidence, which if you're standing in front of small-minded person, they're allergic to that.
I like that. They're allergic. They get itchy. Yeah. It's like, I feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
That's good, man. Yeah. Well, at that time, I think for me, the things that I had built my identity around, up to that point weren't financial. They didn't have a financial component because, well, they couldn't have. So it wasn't like I had the nice car in high school. I didn't have a car at all.
Me neither.
Right. So I was pretty comfortable in my own skin for like my integrity and the way I treated other people and the way I treated girls and the way that I, was about my grades and sports and church. And then I got thrown into this entrepreneurial environment where now there was like a monetization aspect, right? And network marketing, which I'm thankful for, but it has, like anything, a dark side. It has an underbelly to it. And I think one of the real unfortunate things about that industry is the emphasis on money and lifestyle. And it becomes really linear. So it's hard to have influence because you're having this like, oh, come check out this opportunity. It's going to change your life and you're going to get rich. And then they're like, oh, awesome. How are you doing? And you're like, oh, like the thing about my check-in and my savings, and it's like, don't worry about me. Let me show you this other person. And that's just like a really hard thing to do for a while. So I got caught up in that a little bit, right? Where I felt like, oh, and I also did have fast success. I made 35 grand my first 4 months in the company. And I did, build a team of 500 people in 6 months. So I kind of like had like a little skyrocket moment. And then I had to learn how to deal with that. But I was living at that time really, really stressfully. And it wasn't just stressfully because I couldn't make ends meet and there was too much month at the end of the money. I mean, that was stressful, but I didn't really have anyone in my life that I could fully be transparent with about that and vulnerable. I mean, looking back now, it's like almost embarrassing. It is embarrassing because I think like everyone knew, like everyone knew, but we loved you. You know what I mean? We cared about your vision. We cared about the vision. But there, I can remember going through some seasons. I have this memory with you. It's vague, but also vivid at the same time, where it was like I just sort of told you what was going on at home. I think I was like dropping you off after an event, and you were living in that apartment down by the mall there, which we're going to talk about that time at the mall because that is hilarious. And I think there's some good mindset in that.
For sure.
And I just sort of was like, this is what I'm going through. And I can remember thinking, like, as you were discovering more and more about my background, my reality, my struggle, I never felt your respect for me. And I think as a man, respect and love are synonymous, right? There's a great book, Love and Respect, for marriages. So men typically want respect, right? And they don't just want it or need it. It is love to them. They see that as love. Yeah. It's like, oh, this person loves me because they respect me. So even in that moment, like the early stages, and that was before like shit went sideways, where I like, screwed up, moved back to Maryland, was separated, was barely seeing my kids, then divorced, like started MyCORE, like couldn't, I borrowed money from you, then gave you shares in the company because I owed you money. I mean, it was
That's
like,
the reason?
well, no, I'm saying, but like, it was to the point where I was like, yo, like, I don't even have money to give you back, but I'm starting this company and I want you to be a co-founder and I want you to be like an advisor. And like, what do you think about maybe just like rolling that in? And it was just like me being real with you, like, yo, these are IOUs. Like they're better than money. Like these shares are better than the few grand I owe you. So I'm only saying that to say like full transparency. This has not been like some easy peasy. Like I haven't been a great friend or just been like a strong person for you. It flipped where I was the mentor. I was the one that was saying, come this way. The water's warm. The green pastures are green. And like, boom, all of a sudden you had it together. And for years, I mean, like a decade, it was like, yeah, man, fly down. You can stay with me. And like, yeah, no, whatever. We'll eat. And I was like, all right.
Because I was never attached to something.
Right. That's interesting.
So the respect part, because that's what I would expect somebody to do with me. Because I'm always... It's not like I've always had my shit together. It's not like I'm always going to have my shit together in every aspect. Yeah. Maybe you can have it all in the financial side.
Right.
Or maybe you can have it all in family side or society wide. But if I'm expecting somebody to truly look at me, especially somebody who's you close with or a friend, or you call a best friend, or you spend that much time with, and you want them to respect you based on the value that does not change constantly, which is you. Everything else is circumstantial and it could change. So if the way I'm gonna look at you in a respect spectrum would change based on things are variables basically,
Right.
then I don't have the right way to gauge your actual level of respect.
Yeah, it was a constant, like the connection that we had made around how we thought.
Yeah, because it had nothing to do with because you respected me. Because if I did not feel that, I wouldn't reciprocate it.
Right. Yeah, it would have just been like so many other relationships. We're like, oh, that guy was on my team. You know what I mean? Like I remember him. You know, we're still Facebook friends, but at some point our connection became like ride or die, where we looked at each other in the runners and were like, we're doing this, like whatever it is, you know. And at
We
the
talked
time,
about doing this like 10 years ago.
I know, right?
That's
Here we
crazy.
are. That's a good point. And I think that it's important for people to not just think it, but like say it and reinforce it and encourage it and lift it up, because you know, in a lot of those moments when maybe I flew down and kind of just was like rehabbing, like I was just like, yeah, I'm going to come down for like a week. And I remember thinking, I started to say it a second ago, that like, you know what, we'll probably eat well. Tariq lives well. But I didn't realize that Ramadan, like that's not a good time to visit you. So now if ever I'm like, hey man, I'm gonna come spend a couple
Is
days,
it Ramadan?
like, you're like, that's the calendar work.
Why
I got
are
a
you
farmer's almanac. So
very healthy?
what is that food we ate that time? That like feast, man, it was like all the rice and the lamb or whatever. It was like all out on the table. What's that called?
It was a couscous, a Moroccan. Yeah, it was
I
good.
think about that randomly.
Yeah,
Man.
that's one of the main things that allow us to be okay with fasting. We're thinking
You
about
wait
it.
up. Oh my gosh, man, that
Oh,
was
you
like,
as a Christian, you guys fast.
yeah. We do, but it's
just-
like pretty short, you know.
Yeah, but you guys drink water and all that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You hear about people doing like a 5-day fast, or
And we
you
just
know,
anything that we do it the
we
right
use
way.
like a long. Okay, we're gonna go there. It's been real nice up to this point.
Get the AKs out.
Oh
But
man,
no, man, I've always had fun with you coming, man. We've always been raw with each other. We've always been very
and we've made
authentic,
sure
yeah.
not to miss the moments. Like
Oh,
you,
of
you were
course,
there
yeah.
for
In the middle
Amelia's
of
birth,
yeah,
Rosie's.
yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And seeing them grow up, man, you got a beautiful family.
I remember you surprising me for my 30th. I didn't think you could make it, and then,
Yeah,
that was cool.
yeah, that's DC.
That was real cool, man. Those moments matter. Yeah. So I'm loving this conversation, and I think there's so many. I mean, we have so much history now, and we could talk for days and days. And I want to make sure that we're just continuing to bring value to the people that are
Sure.
are listening and that are leaning in and wanting to sort of be a fly on the wall and say, okay, you know, here's two guys. They don't have it all figured out, but they've got a strong friendship. They've got a strong faith, even if they're respective faiths. They have a lot of love and respect for each other. At the risk of you drawing a blank, what is something that I have taught you that maybe
Resilience is the word. Resilience. How can this guy go through all this BS over and over and still have the same vision with his wife, with his family, with his acquaintances, with people that work with him in the business, and like unapologetically?
unapologetically, yeah,
that word. See,
it's a lot of
a
syllables.
lot but yeah. So something
Speaking
that
to this mic, man, it can
so
get,
yeah, sure.
Don't be
So-
afraid of it; won't bite you.
No. I won't be.
It's resilient.
I got you. So
That's
unapologetic.
really meaningful.
So the reason why is like you stay true to yourself at the moments where most people would just basically crumble and just be like, well, since I don't have the results behind it to back it up, I still believe in it. But like you were just, nah, I mean, I still believe in it. I mean, to this day. I mean, we had conversations last night that you're like, nah, man, like I'm still in it. Like we're still in this vision wise. Yes. So resilient will be the word. that I've learned, that I still see you as very a very resilient man when it comes to family, business, vision, all of that. So that's pretty big.
Thank you, man.
So that would be and then you actually, because you will only know if you're resilient when you're dealing with adversity. You're not gonna know I am resilient. Yeah, and
So sunny and
yeah,
nice
sure.
out
I just
here.
you can't. Oh, I'm confident until you can't just say I'm confident to yourself or resilient or hard worker until that's the only thing you have.
Right.
So you've been nothing but resilient.
If nothing
And
else.
that's the word. If we take everything else,
Right.
but that's what keeps you going
Yeah.
on everything else. So, but if I would take one word,
That's cool, man.
so it would be resilient.
Well, what a combo! You take confidence and resilience.
I think we would do something with that.
Right. What you could
Yeah.
do. I really appreciate that, man.
It's true.
I wasn't fishing for a compliment or anything. We had a moment. It was fun. Tarik came in last night, and our community pool closes at 8:00, so the key fob doesn't work, and it was getting dark. I guess it was dark at that point. We had kind of been playing with the kids a little bit, and they really probably would normally be getting ready for bed about 8:30. And it was just hot and sweaty, and I'm like, yo, let's go to the pool. You want to go to the pool? And we took the three middle, I guess you could say. So Amelia, Rosie, and Judah, who are 11, 9, and 6. And we essentially snuck in the pool, which that could have gone really bad. Like I looked at that fence and was like, oh yeah, no problem. And then I got up there, and the way the spikes are, and my foot, I was like, oh damn, like this could be really bad. So I scaled the fence, let everyone in, and we were hanging in the pool. And I really enjoyed that moment with my kids and with you and just the five of us. But I don't know, there was maybe I was reading more into it, but I think there was this like moment where you said something or kind of looked at me, and it was like I could sort of see you seeing like this factor of life, and how crazy it is to be like, oh my God, I remember Amelia when she was an infant, and now she's like playing out this character in front of me with all this personality and sass. But I guess what I'm sharing there is that it's not just enough, in my opinion, to be successful in one area and not the other area. And that includes the ones that are altruistic. So like, I'm not buying it when a person is like, I'm a great father, but I'm broke. It's like, well, you're not a great father then. I'm a great father because all I do is make myself available. Well, why don't you show work ethic? Why don't you show, what it is to win? And I'm probably teetered on the extreme side, as far as my devotion to my craft. But I think that I am instilling in my children, and I can see it already, a drive for achievement. It encourages me the way that you said that your father and your grandfather, by working hard and having results and like doing the deal, just programmed you for success. And obviously I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know yet. And we kind of get screwed up from our parents. We screw up our kids. But I just was sort of reflecting on that, where I felt proud because this was a part of me that because you see the pictures and the
I've also
stats.
said
But
it
I think
too.
you saw it like
And I've
right
said
up
it.
front.
I was
Yeah.
like, bro, like if anything, you're great at having an actual family. Like you're
Right.
great at creating a family. And that's the truth, man. You
And
and
credit
Jen
where
have,
credit's due.
yeah,
Jen
you
holds
and
it
Jen have
down,
been,
but
yeah,
it takes a village, and it takes both of these
sure.
roles. Someone's got to make the bread. Someone's or make the bacon, or go out and get the bread, and someone's got
Like
to
turkey bacon.
prepare it. Yeah, turkey. I gotta tell you guys a quick story. It's messed up because I say some dumb shit. But we used to go to Jersey Mike's.
We might have lunch there. Who knows?
We should
Yeah,
go to
be
Jersey.
good.
That'd be fun. I'm gonna say
I would no, I would not do that. Go ahead.
So we would split a number 9 club sub, giant, stank. Swipe up. You can use my promo code. But they would always ask, "Do you want the mayo and the bacon?" And I would say, I'm like, oh, can you just put bacon on the half? He doesn't eat bacon. He's Jewish. He would just sit there like, it's messed up. So that joke's a little touchier right now. But I've always been willing to say some dumb shit, and I thought I should start a podcast to create more space for that. But no, I felt proud in that moment for you to be able to see the part of my life that isn't selling, isn't leading, isn't brand building or influencing. It was just, these are my kids, and they don't have a worry in the world relative to finances, relative to whether they would be able to go to the school that they want to go to, or whether if the car breaks down it can get fixed. And a lot of the things that I grew up that were sort of the bear chasing us, or the saber tooth that might take us out, they don't know. They don't know what it's like to lose electricity or to get evicted. And in a weird way, and it might just be how I've reconciled with it, I don't want to change anything about my upbringing because it made me so damn resilient, and I'm proud of that resilience. I'm proud of that durability. I don't want it to screw me up too much, or give me too much of a callus. But anyway, I just wanted to kind of recreate that moment with you because it meant something to me, even if you were just like, I'm just swimming with these kids, But you said it in a way that
No,
I
it's
think,
true because it meant something to me.
yeah, I think it was cool. Right on, man. So you have had a lot of success. You are successful. You win.
Relatively.
So I want to hear about some of the things in your life that have been hard, that you have struggled through. I know that you are recently divorced, and that's hard. You don't have children, so that could be considered less difficult. But I don't think that. I actually think that a divorce is a death. It's a grievance. It's something that you have to really go through the 5 stages of grief. And I've talked to people, actually the guy we worked out with this morning, I had a similar conversation. Kid's a stud. I call him a kid. He's your age, but he just,
He's a stud.
he's a stud, and he looks really young. He got like a baby face, but man, can he move some weight? And, but he is divorced, no children. And I've talked to other people that have gone through marriage and divorce. And when you have children, you have the complexity of that, but you also get to be tethered to that person for life in a way that wasn't the original plan, but that you now navigate. When you don't, you could arguably never talk to that person again, ever, never see them again. Like literally they don't exist to you the way that like, oh, I dated that person, or, yet all the hopes and dreams that you had when you went into that union, when you went into that commitment, to that vow, are no longer there. And I don't think we as a people give enough credence to divorce. It's become so common now. It's actually more common, right? It's like 57% of marriages end in divorce. And I'm not saying that to say that like divorce is bad. I'm saying that to say that divorce is rough, dude. It is really, really hard, because if somebody's spouse dies, your wife dies, your husband dies, the amount of sympathy and support and like, oh my God, I can't believe that happened. Like, I'm so sorry. And let me bring you lasagna. And
Lasagna.
like
That sounds good right now.
right, I know, we're going to go. We're going to wrap this up. I'm hungry.
Good.
But I just wanted to make sure that like, as much as there's a lot of highlight reel, and you could be like, Nathan, I don't want to talk about this, and that's perfectly fine. I kind of push limits, but I'm just kind of curious, like as somebody that doesn't give up and somebody that does, have the resources to get the support and to create the lifestyle for you to get married, be married for 5 years, and it end in divorce. How are you handling that? Is that hard?
I mean, the word hard. I mean, you're not a robot,
Right.
so it's not something that's simple. It's complex, but I wouldn't use the word hard.
Okay.
It's very complex, but the reason why is not. I'm not using the word hard because I didn't make a quick decision.
It took its course.
It took its course,
Right.
and it was more of a peaceful separation.
Okay.
And person is a great person.
Yeah, she is.
But at the end of the day, sometimes you have different paths, and they have different reasons to have those different paths. And like you said, you might start the union with different dreams and aspirations, and it's okay to have different results after that to your own mindsets. Just make sure that you always stay true to yourself. And just by staying true to yourself doesn't mean you have to always victimize yourself or let the other person victimize themselves, and just be at peace with your own decisions the whole time.
Right. So keeping some, um, what keeps coming to my mind as we're talking here is you mentioned Darnell Self, and I love his podcast, Self
Self
Talk.
talk, I like
Yeah.
that.
And I learned in college, I had never heard it before, but my freshman year of college, I'm wrestling at Penn, and we have like a team psychiatrist that's assigned to us to essentially work on mental health. And this was 2006, 2007. So this was before mental health had become as known and popular. So it was kind of bizarre. Like, oh, I guess we're meeting with this shrink to talk about our next wrestling match. But one of the things that he would constantly talk to us about was self-talk, right? What is the conversation you're having with yourself during a match? What happens if you're up and then, somebody gets a 5-point move right before second period? How do you talk to yourself? Because you only got about 30 seconds, to get back to it. So we did a lot of like exercises and work on that. So obviously you navigated that, and you had to like have conversations with yourself around it, right? And we don't need to get into the details of like when did it go from amazing to not
Mm-hmm.
great, or was it always not? But I guess what I'm wondering, if you've processed this, or if there's enough hindsight, is there something that you learned in that season of life that could be helpful for somebody that is maybe right in a similar situation? And I'm pro marriage, right? Like
Me
I
too.
always want, like do everything you can. Like I've said it to
Me too. Yeah.
friends. I've said it in people that have, just said, hey, you've repaired a marriage and you've recovered from some major like blows to a marriage. How'd you do it, kind of thing? I don't know. And I just say, look, just do everything you can within your power, within God's power, within the other person's power. But it does take two to tango. And there's also a lot of hope beyond that. And I want to ask you about that too, kind of hope around family and next steps and goals. And we can kind of round third base of this episode. But I'm curious, like for our listeners that have maybe dealt with that or are dealing with that, what is something that you've learned in that? Because for me, I'll just speak for myself. One of the areas that I struggled with wasn't just the emotion of it. There was like this other wrinkle in it, which I felt like a failure. Now, I don't know that you've ever felt like a failure. So I don't know that about you, because you don't spend a lot of time there. Like you've like,
But especially in this subject, I never felt like a failure.
okay. So
No.
you had self-talk through it, and you were like clear-eyed. It wasn't like, man,
So what I
it
would,
messed up,
yeah.
or it failed, or I
No, I
couldn't
never looked at it that
figure
way.
this one out. So yeah,
No, I
tell me
never looked
something
at
you've
it that
learned in
way.
it.
So I think I've mentioned some of that to you yesterday. It's more like, as long as you do all it takes to try to change or try to uh, create a better version of yourself by basically trying to get your partner to see what what you believe in,
Mhm.
that's all fine until it starts changing who you truly are. You have to be able to look at yourself and say, that doesn't mean that person is bad or wrong,
Right.
but if we're not on the same page, that it gets to a point that I have to be changing who I am inside. Not I'm not talking about not putting your effort to make sure you do all you can. I'm talking about when you start feeling that you're not becoming the person that you went into those vows
Right.
for whatever reason. I think it's okay to have that self talk and say, I do not want to lose myself for whatever
Yeah.
reason, and that doesn't go against your partner. That's respect towards yourself.
That's interesting. So that's sort of a threshold that you were not willing to cross, And I think it's the work that you did that so many people don't do. Sadly, they don't get in touch with who they are. They don't soul search. They don't personally develop. They don't have a grounding and a foundation. Obviously, it's nobody listening, because if they're listening to this, and they're probably killing it, but the great majority of people don't have a guidepost. They don't have a compass or a due north. So it sounds like you were navigating it, staying hopeful, enjoying the moment, having like all the emotions and experiences of the good and the bad, but it got to a point where the only way to really move forward would have had to fundamentally change who you are and compromise things that were so deep rooted at that point, and in a good way. You were like,
And not just with the partner, with also the family.
Okay,
So
other
of course, so
relationships,
in anything.
you would have had to show up as like
So
a
as
different
long,
person.
yes, if that's what's gonna take,
Yeah.
you
And
can.
that's not sustainable, because then
You
you're
can do that.
faking it.
Yeah,
You're
you can
faking
do
it.
that, but just expect to have issues with yourself, because you literally just broke a vow with yourself, which is
Right.
more important than the vow that you just made with that person, because that
That
person made that
interesting.
vow with you and you made it based on yourself.
Right. That's really fascinating, because
So if you cannot respect yourself enough in a way that you say, no, this is, I like myself, I love myself. Doesn't mean I'm perfect, but I love myself. Because I love myself so much, I do not want to be a person that puts you in a position that the only way for you to be okay is for me to change, or vice versa.
Right.
And I would leave it at that. Very simple thing.
I mean, it's pragmatic, and it's also powerful in its simplicity, because I think, like, this is particularly true in like the Christian community. We put a lot of emphasis on marriage, and we really demonize divorce, and yet the numbers don't lie. There's no more married people in the church, in the Christian. In fact, I think it might even be worse. Like, the divorce rate is the exact same in all the churches of America, the Christian churches. So it's just, I don't even know what I'm saying with that, other than like, does anyone have this figured out? And I think that you probably are cracking a code there a little bit, which is that you aren't just making a vow to the other person, you're making a vow to yourself, and you're acknowledging that they're making a vow to themselves, and hopefully they've made some vows to themselves up to this point. They're not children. You're getting married at least 18, but most people in their 20s, you should have a pretty good handle on who you are, within a margin of error. And if everything is deteriorating that, well, then you gotta, know when to fold them, and know when to hold them. So that's really good, man. I mean, I'm super hopeful for you. You have such natural, like, characteristics around taking care of a partner. I've watched you be a great husband. I've watched you be a great boyfriend, at the time. And now with the resources you have, you could create a killer lifestyle, not just from like an integrity standpoint, but like, yo, you want to go to Dubai? Like, we gonna go this weekend kind of thing. So you're very attractive in that way. And I'm sure you're probably not struggling for prospects, but is family and marriage and like legacy something that is still very important to you?
Of
It's
course.
not like been there, done that, not getting
No.
married. It's
No.
like,
It is.
I'm going to stay true
It's
to
not in
myself
my.
and
It's
find.
not something that I'm saying. If I don't do it, I would feel some. No. But
Right, you're
it's
open
always,
to what happens
it's
from
part.
here.
It's part of my core beliefs,
Hmm.
and it's part of my ongoing beliefs even after this experience.
It's good, man. I love that. Okay, I want to tell one story that I think is hilarious, and I think there's a nugget in it, because it was another one of those moments where our identity was tested. And here's how the story goes. I'm going to give my point of view, and then I want you to interrupt me and give your point of view. My point of view was that we were at the mall in Orlando, the Mall of Millennia, It's getting dark. I think it's going to storm.
Florida.
And we are what we used to call prospecting, right? Which is essentially like, it was kind of random. It's recruiting and like seeing if people are personable and open-minded. And looking back now, it's like, it's kind of weird, but they call it the 3-foot rule, right? Which is if somebody's within 3 feet of you, like, what's up, and you don't do it in like such an overt way, like you're selling, I don't know, popsicles or candy or something. But you kind of keep it cool. So we're coming out of the mall. And I've got a suit on and a briefcase. I think maybe we'd been doing an appointment or we were heading to.
We had an appointment up in there.
And we see these sharp guys that were dressed well because they worked at the mall.
They worked at Louis Vuitton.
Oh, that's right. They worked at Louis Vuitton. You ever see them there? I know you shop there. They still
I bought something from them.
They still work there to this day?
I don't know about this day.
Oh. But like I
think 2 years ago, I've seen the guy.
So I said something like,
you're like, excuse me, sir.
Go ahead and tell your.
Yeah, you're like, yo, excuse me, sir. The guy was like I would say about 10 feet away. And then he looked back, and as soon as he looked, because I'm pretty sure they're used to people at the mall just like prospecting him. He goes, no, I'm not interested. And he's just like, what do you mean, man? What do you think, we're out here selling popsicles?
I like just snapped on.
And the guy was like, wait. He's like, and he went back and we were like, I was asking for directions. And the guy felt bad. He felt bad. And as soon as he talked to me, like, well, other than that, like, what do you do? So he went back.
Did I get his numbers?
You did, I think.
It was so like twisted. Yeah. Because I remember it like he pissed me off, frankly.
Yeah, because he was
like,
very rude.
He was rude. Yeah, he was like, "Oh, I'm not interested, man." And I'm like,
"Yeah,
what are you talking about? Interested?" You know what I mean? I was like, "Interested in what?" I was like, "I'm looking for directions, man."
I'm looking for directions in life.
I'm just like pointing that stuff. Like, is
this way, that way?
I'm like, what do you think? I'm like out here selling popsicles in my brief? Like, what are you talking about, dude? I'm just weirdo. Gosh. Anyway, what do you? So thanks for the directions, man. What do you guys do?
Like I said, about a few years back, I'm pretty sure he doesn't remember me. I went back there and we spent some money, and then just in my mind, I mean, I saw him. I didn't go there for him, but I went back and I was like, oh, it's a funny story that.
I think there's a gem in there, and the gem is that when you believe in who you are and why you exist and what you're doing.
Of course, yeah.
No rejection, even abrupt like that, you're not gonna let them. It was a moment for me that I was like, you're not gonna put baby in the corner. Like, I'm going to say hello to you, and if you aren't interested in what I have to say, that's fine. But you're at least gonna like acknowledge my existence. I'm not gonna let you shut me down before you even get past a greeting.
Sure.
And I think sometimes people get that like boo, like, oh, and they bail on their dreams. And it's like, why are you putting so much stock in what that person thinks about you?
Why am I giving you that much power over me?
Right.
Why would they do that? And anything, I think that's the biggest thing in sales. I mean, it's a transfer of belief, but right away I'm giving you access to change my beliefs that I'm trying to share with you. As soon as you give me an objection,
give us a nugget, man. You can sell like no one else, right? I mean, you've crushed it in your industry. I would imagine that amongst the office and the market, obviously people know who you are, and I know that you've even like done some seminars to people that could seemingly be your competitors, and it's just like, yeah, I'll show you because I know you're probably not gonna be able to do it the way I can do it anyway, but like. Knowing that you do something specific, but that a lot of our listeners are in similar industries, what are some techniques? What are some, like, I know we've talked a lot about mindset. So I think that from a mindset plus skill set plus tool set equals asset standpoint, if anyone's been listening up to this point, they should have like 3 pages of notes on just how you think. I'm always about mindset, so feel free to just like stay there. But is there like something that you do, the way you shake the hand, like what's the kind of just the way you do it? Because your percentage has got to be nuts. Like, do people ever say no to you?
Yeah, just they do.
Okay,
more than the yes, and that's the part that I would actually probably talk about is just be okay with the fact that going into something that in any sales, it's you're probably gonna get more no's than a yes.
Okay.
So I think the closer you get to accepting that fact, and my biggest technique, it's still in mindset wise, would be it's like I have a contract with myself,
Hmm.
and I look at myself as an actor. An actor meaning not in a lying way. No,
Right,
an actor
right.
meaning I
Not
have a role.
disingenuous, but
So
you're
I have a
playing
role,
Yeah.
and my role does not. I don't focus on the results and let the results of that day or that week or that month change that role.
Hmm.
I do my thing to a level that I'm okay with, and I live with the results. So when I have a sale, it doesn't truly change who I am. Yes,
Interesting.
you get happy, but if I miss a sale, I'm not so ecstatic. But it does not change.
No.
I don't attach the results
So good.
to the work part, and I get to a position of this is what I'm gonna do all the time,
It's who you are at this point.
and it's gonna and the
hard-won.
results does help. They do the results do help when it comes to backing yourself up with yourself,
Yep.
but do not change based on the actual results. And as soon as you de-associate yourself from that, you're basically freeing yourself by, oh, you say no, look, that has nothing to do with me. Like you're not, you're saying no to a product, you're saying no to a technique, you're saying no to a company, you're saying no, not to me. Like I'm still gonna get out of here and probably hang out with a friend or go to a coffee shop or something. And I'm still gonna, if I attach myself to the results, then I'm basically given all the power
Right.
to the results, which is the prospect or the client or whatever. That's number one. Number two is I truly believe in what I sell.
Right.
I truly do believe like in what I sell. Anything what I sell. Yes, a sale could be an exaggeration of feeling that I'm transferring,
Right.
but I truly believe that
Right. It's a fact.
it's a
not-
fact.
yeah.
It's what and whatever you do, service, product, whatever it is, the more you believe in it. When I say believe in it, doesn't mean it have to be like 'cause somebody's selling Ferraris. Doesn't mean all of them they're driving it. But there's not one person that does not believe that $500,000
Right,
car
right.
is. There's a reason why. And when they say no to them, they don't feel like they're saying no to the actual person.
Right.
Because I think that
There's a separation.
like you've
That's a
always
great
said
point.
before, the how tos. Everybody knows what the how tos are, but how do you do the how tos? So
And who are you in the how?
of course, going back to
lead with who.
exactly. So if you go back and you're always leading with who, but when you're selling, you're not selling who. So you're leading with who, but
Right.
what you're selling is not you.
Right.
So be okay because those rejections are not towards you.
Right. That's the
So
bulletproof.
be you, which is the main reason why you're gonna do anything in life, which is lead with who, but don't attach your actual feelings to the results because they have nothing to do with you.
It's almost like that's really cool the way you're sharing this because it makes me think of like a bulletproof vest, like a Kevlar. Is that how you say that? Kevlar, I think a vest is very close to you, right? Like it's form fitting.
Yeah,
You could wear
from
it under a
outside. People
suit.
think
you don't even know.
that's-
Like you're just
and
like,
they
oh,
and
that
they
speaker.
shouldn't. There's nothing wrong with that.
But it's not your skin.
Exactly.
It's not your rib. So if a bullet comes,
And it's okay to feel it, but don't let it kill you, bro.
Right, right, exactly. Like, oh shit.
Every day you're gonna die. Every day.
Right, right. I know. like
Like it's okay to get hurt. Like I said, moments. Yeah, but don't.
So the irony is that you have to sort of create an integration between who you are, why you are, and what you're selling, what you're sharing, what you're. And the thing about selling is that people's mind go to like a product or a service, but you
On
could
a
be
daily
listening
basis,
and you're
yeah.
in a nonprofit. It's like,
Of
well, you better
course.
sell that your cause
Churches.
is where your money should go.
Mosques.
Church, mosque.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
sure.
like you're selling, dude. One
As
way or
long as
the
I'm
other.
sharing with you an idea or communicating something with you that I want you to see it my way, I'm
Right.
selling you that.
Right, right.
That's
And then
basically what it is.
at the same time, even as you pull that in to this really like connected, integrated, congruent, like, hey, didn't you see what I did there? Like I am this person and I have these, motives and I do these things and all is well in the world. There's a healthy space between what it is and who you are, that if a person rejects that, you're not being rejected, you're rejecting that. You're
Of course,
rejecting
and
that
it's an
vacation,
ongoing
that
process. I'm
product,
not
that,
saying you
right.
master it for life. You have
Yeah.
moments, but if you know that that's your mindset, at least you know the frame that you have to go back to reload again and go back and do it again and again and again.
And see, there lies the secret sauce, because I think people will get it and they'll go, yeah, no, I know that. It's like, cool, you get that. But like, how many hours have you been in it and on it and all up in it? Because it's going to have to be at least 10,000, and that's years, right?
Of
I mean,
course,
you're
yeah.
10 years now in your industry, and you've reached a level of mastery and success that, yes, you had some immediate results. I think you probably like cleared 6 figures your first year, right? But you've gotten to like really rare air now that very few people break through in the world, let alone in your industry. I know there's a lot of money in
And
what
you
you
still
do.
consistently try to stay there
Yeah.
by improving yourself on a daily basis.
And you're not like so singular or linear in it. You have 2 businesses, El Popo, right? Which I want to kind of hear about that real quick, and we'll wrap up. And we're gonna keep doing this, man. We'll do conversation number 15 together, 55. I want to keep checking in because
number 5 is my favorite number.
I know I love that, man. I could pretend like
It's been
I knew that,
my
but
number on all my jerseys.
I know. When I called you, it's like,
Massages.
man, I need you for convo number 005. You were like, that's my number. I'm in. I love it. So El Popo is the brand for the 2 shops that you have in Orlando.
It's also my nickname, yeah. That's why it's on the car. Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that.
So yeah, El Popo basically it's a nickname of mine, and most people just call me El Popo. And the way it started is more of a time in Morocco when they had some protests when it comes to the political parties and all of that. And there were some immigrants from all over the world that they were talking about what they were thinking about Morocco. There were Moroccans living, I mean, all over the world. One of them was in Italy, and he was talking about his views on what Morocco was going through.
So it was a Moroccan in Italy talking about Morocco. But
2 Moroccans in a YouTube channel,
away.
2013, around that. They used to call actually the Arab Springs when Tunisia had issues with their president, Egypt as well, Libya. So one of these Moroccans was speaking, and I was listening to him with a best friend of mine. His name is Hamza. He's actually living in Marbella right now. So we were watching this video, and the guy kept on saying, "El democracia." El demo is the popolo. El popolo, and he kept saying the word El popolo. And it was late at night, and we kept listening to it, and then we kept making fun of that word. The next day, anything that's cool or nice, I would say, "See that right there? El Popo. See that restaurant? It was El Popo. Oh, that girl right there? That's El Popo." And I added the more El Popo del Popo.
Okay.
So since then, my close friends are calling me El Popo, and I just kept using the word El Popo. And now most people call me El Popo, and then
so it's become a brand.
My 2 shops are called El Popo. Yep.
That is so cool, man. I think that people really can underestimate the power of brand and branding. I remember it. I didn't remember it until you said it again, but I can remember you had told me before that people would call you Morocco.
Yeah,
and that became
school,
a brand.
yeah.
And then, you have now this El Popo kind of signature. I loved seeing it on your license plate.
Yeah.
That's really cool. One of our team members got MyCORE on their Porsche.
Cool.
And I was like, yo, I'm going to do that. And then I remembered that I still drive a Honda Accord, so I'm going to wait. But I love the
seasons. We all got seasons, man.
You gotta get that reliable car, man. You get them kids
For
saved, bro. Yeah. So
Japanese cars are good.
exactly. So I think that what I'm hearing, kind of as like a summation of all of this, right, is that you are a person that is so sure of who you are, and I know sometimes that can have a connotation of like, oh, you just seem real sure of yourself, and it's like,
I'm so sure because I know my shortcomings.
Right, it's the weaknesses,
of course,
that you know.
because I don't lie to myself.
That
I don't lie to
you gotta
myself.
put that on the front of that
So if I don't lie
podcast.
to, since I don't lie to myself, I don't expect you
Yeah.
to call me out on a lie that I don't say to myself.
That's good, man. That's so good.
So if I take that away from you, how can you not take that confidence? That's the only way you're gonna take that.
Yeah.
So I start with that.
I love that. I was in the last episode with Stephen Freeman, who is super sharp, and
That was a pretty good episode for sure.
yeah, and he talks about that, like nothing good happens in the dark. You know, that to have the proper nutrients and sunlight and water, it's got to be in the light. So lies are in the dark, right? They're in the darkness. And I like how you framed that, where it's like, look, I don't lie to myself. I might lie to myself about the good things because I'm working towards them, and I'm convincing myself that this is
but
true.
If you lie to yourself on things that are not
Right.
on the bad things, then
Right.
you're basically telling yourself, hey, we're not moving forward. We're gonna stay in the dark.
I'm gonna talk about how much weight I can lift for a second because
It's a lot.
I'm proud of it. No, but this morning you saw me deadlift that. It wasn't that much, but it was 425 pounds.
That's a lot.
For a washed up athlete. But what people don't realize about lifting and athletics is that what you're doing is, yes, using those muscle groups, those major muscle groups. So on something like a deadlift, you're going to be using your hamstrings, definitely your quads, your glutes, your back. But that's not actually where the strength comes in. I mean, it comes in to a point, like maybe relative to me, maybe like 350 pounds I'm doing with those core major muscles. But it's the recruitment of all the other muscles that are fringe to or adjacent, that aren't the major muscle groups, that come into play. So that could be like your calves, or around your knees, or the parts in your neck that aren't like all up in it. They're the ones that are giving you that extra push. Mm-hmm. But if you didn't exercise those muscles, you didn't stimulate those muscles, you didn't feed those muscles up to that moment, you're not moving that way. Because they're like, pretty much what they do is, you're like, hey, your brain's saying like, hey, I need you. And they're like, piss off. Yeah. You're like, you ain't talking to me.
It's like a friend that you never talk to, exactly. Or like a relative that you never talk to, and then you need them, yep. Or vice versa. Yep. Like they never talk to you, they never done any, and then they need you. You can be a bigger person, right. Or you can be those muscles and say, right. Piss off.
So it's all deposits and withdrawals, and it's like, if you didn't deposit into that muscle
without group, counting, sometimes you just gotta let it be.
Just
let it be. Let it go.
So I appreciate you, man, for always being there for me. I know this is true. You have been a better friend to me than I have been to you, and I want to be better. I feel that my life is less chaotic as it once was. It has less twists and turns, and we are now only a couple hours away from each other. So I know that you're going to be a regular guest, and I think we're going to be doing some really cool things together. I have some vision for this sort of version of MyCORE, kind of the digital version, that I think we could really do a lot together. So I thank you. I love you, man.
Of course, man. I love you too, man.
What an awesome time. This was
Can't wait.